This is Papa Smurf. You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, with ODB and the mayor.
Yo, it's ODB. This is Our Lifestyle podcast. We're getting ready to jump into the fresh episode, and we want to thank our title sponsors, which includes Custom Car Show Productions. They have 3 key events every year. Orange Beach Invasion every March in Orange Beach, Alabama. Scraping the Coast every June in Biloxi. And Bayou Showdown, which is every November in Slidell, Louisiana. We also want to thank Mini Truck Showdown family, which includes their event, their flagship event, the first weekend in June 2022 in Las Vegas, Mini Truck Showdown. You can go on Facebook or Instagram for more information. They also have Kern County Showdown, which is going to be in Bakersfield, California, the first weekend in February 2022. Thank you so much. Support those that support the scene, and on to the episode. Wait, what'd you say?
Knock this mother out.
That was a good song, wasn't it?
Bro, it was the fucking bomb.
Turn this mother out. Remember when Vanilla Ice remixed it?
No, that I don't remember.
Didn't he? He was like, that knock this motherfucker out was, we're gonna turn this motherfucker out. Da-dun. And then he had Go White Boy, Go White Boy, Go. Remember that one?
Oh, well, of course I remember that one.
I remember you would do, Shannon was saying you would do the worm to that in the dance clubs. Dude, I'm trying to get a photo, bro. I know somebody had one of the big video cameras on their shoulder. We just gotta find it. I'm gonna make it a GIF or whatever, a meme.
Bro. Oh, fucking shit, man. Fucking shit, man.
Yo, it's Our Lifestyle Podcast, episode 270. Welcome to 2022. Biggity Mike the Mayor, you dialed in. Dude, what's going down?
Bro, just another beautiful day here in Southwest Florida. I tell you what, it was a little nipply this morning. I got in my truck and it said a whopping 52 degrees. And I know all you guys from up north with all that snow, and y'all like, shut the fuck up, 52 degrees. Bro, that was a little chilly. I had to turn my heat on this morning going to work.
Man, that chill in the air this past weekend was awesome. So glad to hear the weather updates back. But, Christmas and New Year's, Happy New Year, everyone. Again, hopefully you guys had a great Christmas. But it was so warm, but we knew eventually, like, January comes around. That's another reason why people don't realize, Mike, that you and John settled on January for the show. Because if you pick out of all the 12 months, my understanding, in Florida, right, it's pretty damn hot. January, dude, it's awesome, dude. It's playoff time, as Joe Morrow would say, but it's going to dip down a little bit. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what we're hoping for, and of course, what ODB is talking about is Eastbound Get Down Show. Okay, guys, January 21st to the 23rd, Daytona, Destination Daytona. That's in Ormond Beach, Florida. Come on down. EastboundGetDownShow.com. Get those registrations in. It's almost over. About to close that up. It's $60. 2 armbands for the weekend, and come out and have a damn good time.
I could see you. I'm on EastboundGetDownShow.com. Just how it sounds, right? There's no kind of weird spelling or anything. I could see you getting that as a tattoo. Eastbound Get Down with the I, right across your arm, dude. You know what I mean? And then you hold your arm up, and then boom, that's your advertising for the whole, for the show.
Oh, absolutely. That's my gimmick. Isn't that what they call it, the gimmick?
Yeah, tell John to get it first, and then you'll go in second. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Sloppy seconds, man. I love sloppy seconds.
And then, like, once he gets it, you go, hey, I've been thinking we're kind of maybe going to change the name. I don't know. You know what I mean? But
no, there's definitely, after all that fiasco we went through with that shit, there is no change in the name.
10-4. Well, on this episode, we hopefully, as we always say, the show must go on. But if all goes well, we'll have Mike Collins on. And Mike owned Skybody. What's been ironic, Mike, is been wanting to have him on, but we kind of wanted to line it up too with us selecting his truck, Skybody, as one of the two that are on the River Run remix. So he goes back 30 years. There's the tie-in with Gendro. So much to talk about, and hopefully if everything works out, we'll get that audio done this coming week, and then it'll be out for 270. So I'm excited, Mike.
Bro, 270. Would we have ever have imagined that we'd make it to 270 episodes, brother? That's fucking awesome. That's amazing that we've made it this far.
Yeah, I always thought, the only thing we've done probably 270 times in a row is like hit the bar on a Friday night trying to catch up to Hank, and it's just not easy, you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I don't really have any other comebacks.
There is definitely no catching Hank. That is impossible.
No doubt. And I do want to thank Mike Collins. It's flamed_Buick55 on Instagram. Of course, you'll hear me mention that later with him. But he posted about a week or so ago, right after Christmas, he went and dug up a bunch of old school photos, and he tagged us and said, last week I was informed that my mini truck that my friend Brian and I built in my parents' garage with limited tools, less knowledge, and an $8 an hour budget was going to be used as a shirt on the shirt for our lifestyle podcast. And, he kind of goes on a lengthy post there, which is fantastic. But, Mike, it's pretty cool to have a triple OG from like back to the 80s, go dig out some more photos of their famed truck. And it's, of course, had a couple of different renditions. So I'm excited to talk about that with Mike and can't thank him enough for sitting down with us this week.
Oh, absolutely, brother. And just the fact that he's been in this scene for over 30 years is really badass. So really glad to have, that knowledge of the scene on, our Lifestyle, the podcast.
Yeah, no doubt. And the last thing I'll say about it is there's a photo of the truck when it was the black edition, and there's guys that are sleeping under it, and you see their legs hanging out. And when I would see that photo, that is really the inspiration for the first River Run remix, the first River Run artwork. You had the guy's legs kind of coming out, kind of that West Coast, style River Run. So it was cool to be able to come back and flip the script and then put it on there. So, tip of the cap to the OG Mike Collins. So, but Mike, I got to thank Graphics Mafia for always sponsoring what we do. Of course, they sponsor us here for the overview. And we tell you time and time again, it's GRAPHIXmafia.com. They could take care of your sticker needs. If you want to take your business to the next level, they even do some design work. They'll do wraps. And, Mike, I understand that they're going to be out at your show. They're on Facebook. They're on Instagram. But, oh, by the way, I think Buddy's getting a little crazy on TikTok. But it's great that they're going to come out and continue to support the Florida scene, including you guys' show at the end of this month.
Yeah, Buddy and Ryan are always out supporting the scene, and it's always good to have those guys out there. And like you said, man, you need any stickers, they can make them for you right there on site.
Yeah, good stuff. So the last episode recap, Mike, the episode 269, it was kind of ironic to end the year with that one. Again, Hank's always talking about 69, never really understood what that was, but maybe one day we'll figure it out. But the last episode was awesome because each of the folks that won our Best Of for the 2021 awards, they had reached out and they were blown away. And again, we don't do it for, the recognition or anything like that. We do it because we want to recognize them, right? We don't do it for what we're doing. We do it because we want to, tip our cap to those individuals, Mike. So I think all the thought and the time and the effort that we kind of put into the awards, I think it was well received, and that was fantastic.
Oh, no, absolutely, brother. And it just seems like they keep getting better and better as we go here.
Yeah, no doubt. And then you mentioned the Custom Scene podcast. I love what they're doing too, right? They had reached out, to the community, the truck community, and they did their awards, which I think is cool. And then I also want to, say congrats to James over at #MiniMovement, arguably one of the coolest, baddest social media pages from a mini trucking standpoint. He also did like best truck, and he actually went with Carl, the Star Wars truck, and I thought that was kind of cool because we saw Carl out at Lone Star Throwdown, and he kind of did the tie-in to that. So there's no doubt Carl was out there too, representing the scene, no regrets. And again, these other outlets love seeing what they're doing.
Always, brother. Always.
Yeah, so last episode recap brought to you by Lone Star Throwdown. We'll be out there in about 2 months. Last weekend in February, come on out to Conroe. Again, although you may not be able to get a vehicle in, arguably this is one of the shows that's just as fun attending. Come on out, Conroe, Texas, LoneStarThrowdown.com for more. So, Mike, dude, the general updates, I'm just excited for 2022. I know, this one's probably an easy one for you because, your show with John is coming up in a couple weeks. But outside of your show, right, like what are you most excited for as we get sideways into the new year, man?
Well, shoot, bro, we got a bunch of badass shows, not just mine and John's, but we got a bunch of other shows that are going on that we go to pretty much every year. But at the same time, just getting my truck out there now that Scott's got it done from Intense Works and Ryan over at ProFab. Between those two, they did a killer job and just getting it out there and getting it to shows and driving this damn thing.
Yeah, I know you're super excited about that. And the other thing that I think that was cool, and we haven't touched upon it a lot, but I've mentioned, and to focus on the positivity of the truck, you had that hiccup with the Indo CVT. And we know that Indo CVT, as Ryan has said, from an Acura standpoint, will not continue on. But that's one thing that Ryan also did last year. And I always encourage, if you've got the Indo CVT, if nothing else, get the parts. Because eventually, if you are left stranded and that compressor's in there, Mike, you have to have the parts to be able to do the Indo CVT to the Indo VT update. And the reason why I'm saying that is I watched the switch speed or switch suspension. I watched their video the other day, and they actually do it, and they do a really good job of kind of showing it. It's not an easy task, but that's another cool thing that you've done on the Mazda.
Oh, yeah, that was definitely something that had to be done, obviously. And I tell you what, I just go ahead and get some advice for anybody out there that is still rolling with one. Go ahead and yank that damn thing out of there, get it out of there, and go ahead and get it replaced now before it goes out on you like it did me. And so that's the only thing I can tell you. Real
deal, man. So I know from my perspective, just looking forward to, slowing down a little bit. And I know some might be like, oh, man, that's – but for me, it's going to be like, very selective on some of the shows that we can hit, do some of the family stuff. Preston is in 10th grade and, got to get him through the rest of these couple years. Mike, having a teenager, especially, with grades and all that stuff, how important it is in their life. So just trying to focus as much as I can there. But as always, man, for a fresh new start, you can never go wrong with that.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, Mike, I know you got some things going on tonight. We are going to go over one more segment, and I think then we'll cut away. But I just want to say a general update's brought to you by our fine friends over at Southeast Mini Truck and Nats, also known as Mini Nats. And, Mike, Mini Nats, Jason Bell and team, every April, last weekend, it's a fantastic weekend, and we're so excited to be up in Maggie Valley, aren't we?
Oh, dude, it's one of our favorite shows of the year, every year. It doesn't matter if it rains. It doesn't matter if it's hot. It doesn't matter if it's cold. Mini Nats is the place to be, and you don't want to miss it. Never want to miss it. That's where more mini trucks come, all in one location than any other show in the country. But one thing we did forget about is we forgot about Dragging the Alley.
Yes.
January 15th. Yes, January 15th in Orlando, Florida.
All right, so January 15th, right? You said Dragging the Alley. It's going to be huge in Orlando, though, right, Mike?
Oh, absolutely, brother. You want to check it out, get on the Facebook page, check out the event page. It's club versus club. If you don't have your club already signed up, get your ass signed up. Get a hold of Christian and get your club signed up and get out there and let's bowl and have a good time, man. Nothing better than bowling and drinking. You know what I'm saying? And then going out there and making fun of everybody else that can't bowl.
No doubt. So, Mike, before we cut away, I do got the trivia question with Mike.
Players, now it's time to get serious. We
want no whammies, Mike. We got to press your luck. And if you can get this, fantastic. It's a great way to start the year. If not, no big deal. It could just hinge on us ending the podcast. No big deal. And then I'll finish it up, and then we'll roll into Mike Collins' audio. But, dude, this 1991, I know I'm not even going to say a cult classic, Mike. Okay, I'm going to move into the 90s a little bit. This is really a classic, dude. 1991 American action crime. It features so in the movie, it's former Ohio State quarterback and rookie FBI agent Johnny Utah. He assists the experienced agent Angelo Pappas investigating a string of bank robberies by, quote, the ex-presidents. A gang of robbers who wear rubber masks, Reagan, Nixon, Lyndon Johnson, and Jimmy Carter, go out robbing different banks, okay? I watched this movie the other day, and I said, I got to incorporate it into the show because it's truly one of my all-time favorite movies. And the last clue I got, Flea and Anthony Kiedis from Red Hot Chili Peppers even make a cameo in this one, Mike. So I don't know, dude. If you don't know this one, like, you might make me pull my hair out, dude.
Oh, bro. Well, I can't pull my hair out because I barely have any. So, so yeah, for sure. Shit. Let me see.
They're it's. I mean, early 90s.
Bro,
I think they tried to remake this one, and truly they dug themselves a hole, bro.
Yeah. No, bro, I'm not going to mess around. I'm not even going to joke with you because, the one thing that I'm an actual pro at, and I don't know if I've ever talked to you about this, but they were a bunch of surfers, and these guys were pretty fucking awesome. And, bro, I can surf like no other. And, I've conquered the waves over in Hawaii a couple times. And actually, the reason why we chose Daytona for a show is because they have some awesome waves over there. And so that we were over there surfing, and I was like, bro, this would be like the perfect spot to throw a car show. So, I figured that's the reason why. But, bro, it's Patrick Swayze was in this too.
Yes, he was, dude.
And so, it's you know what? I'm going to go ahead and say it since you wouldn't. This is a cult classic, and cannot go wrong with this movie. And for all you youngins out there, if you've never watched it, you have got to watch it. So go ahead and tell us the name of it, Jay.
Dude, it's Surfing USA, I think, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, because the Beach Boys, are on the soundtrack,
right.
And it's Surfing in the USA, inside, outside. Yeah.
See?
Dude, the best part is when the chick, the short chick with the short black hair, and she starts changing. Oh, bro, those little perkies. Oh, dude, beautiful.
Dude, I think this one, but you are kind of, you're kind of stalling.
No, I'm just over here staring at my medals, my surfing that I got on the wall over here. Johnny Outlaw. He was a hell of a Nick Nolte. It was a hell of a those guys and him. I can see that face, bro, and those damn teeth, bro. He's got like the biggest teeth ever.
Yes, he does. Hank.
Wait, is it Nick Nolte? Is it Nick Nolte? Was
Hank Nolte? No, wait, no, Gary Busey.
Gary, there you go, Gary. There you go. But dude, I tell you what, he got the trust of Swayze in the movie, and then he turned on him, bro. It was good. That was probably one. That's one of those classics, like Gone in 60 Seconds, bro. Every time that comes on, The Italian Job. Every time that comes on, we can sit there and watch it. This is the same thing, bro. Same thing. Always can watch it anytime, every time.
Yeah, and they tried to remake it, and they bombed out. I mean, that was like, you can't remake a classic, bro.
No, you can't make a classic like that, and especially the fact that they couldn't find the same surfers. They're getting too old to surf.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's called Breaking Point, right?
Well, of course it's called Breaking Point.
Right?
Well, yeah. Point Break there, bro.
Yeah, there you go. Ding, 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 dude. That's the way to start 2022, Mike. We knew you had it in. Dude, one of these Halloweens, I'm going to dress as Bodie, okay? That was Swayze. And then you can go as Johnny Utah, bro, as the man, the myth, the legend, bro. You know what I'm saying? Oh,
dude, I tell you what. We got an announcement coming here soon, and we'll announce it at Eastbound Get Down Car and Truck Show. About you'd mentioned Halloween, so we got an announcement coming up. It might have to do with another car show. So
are you helping? Are you guys going to bring back Guavaween and Ebor maybe?
Oh, dude, Guava Ween. You know, Guava Ween was the first time I ever seen Bubba the Love Sponge in person.
Yeah, they were they were doing like guava weed or something like that, dude.
You know who he was rapping with on stage?
Dion?
Nope, Shaquille O'Neal.
No way, bro. That's throwback.
Dude, I'm telling you.
Shaq
I'm
had,
telling you.
dude, it's so weird you say this. Shaq had a couple of rap albums. People forget. He even had a couple remixes with the Wu-Tang, dude. I mean, Shaq
Yeah, because the Wu-Tang ain't no one to fuck with.
Yeah, dog. Like Matt will tell you, bro, from St. Cloud. He'll top rope you, but Mike,
absolutely.
Dude, thanks for always being a good support, man. The main thing is no whammies. You got to press your luck. Trivia with Mike brought to you by our family at All Time Low Magazine. You've seen us talk about them in the past. You've heard us talk about them. The new issue's coming soon, atlmagazine.com. You can buy the last issue, merchandise, or subscribe to the famed magazine. So, Mike, dude, we're going to cut it a little close this week, or a little shorter, just because we're trying to keep things moving. You got some stuff going on. You're going to be gallivanting around down Naples. Whatever you do, hit the dog track tonight. Let me borrow 20, and I'll try to pay you back next week if we win. If we don't, you may not see me for a couple months. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I'll see you in a couple weeks anyway.
Last thing, bro. I mean, I don't know if you saw, dude, my Packers. Uh-oh. But listen, I'm not getting my hopes up. You know, everybody's talking about this and that, MVP. But listen, we all know what happened last year with the Pack. They went down up in Lambeau. Your damn Buccaneers. I'm not the guy that's going to be out there saying, hey, my team's going to win it all. But, dude, I got a plan ahead, you know what I'm saying, for the divisional round now and then for hopefully the NFC Championship. So we'll have to see if we can get Jim Mora on to talk about the playoffs, dude. I'll be so excited.
Oh, bro, absolutely. And not only that, but I'm still over here looking for Antonio Brown, if you know where he's at. I'm still looking.
Yeah. Well, Hank's got his jersey from that game. He was at the Meadowlands, I think. And supposedly he's got glove. I don't know how he got it. He caught gloves in a jersey. So I think Hank did a jersey swap with AB. I don't know. That's the rumor. Okay. You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, the Bada Bing's up there, not that far from the Meadowlands or whatever it is now, MetLife Stadium. So, but seriously, Mike, I know you got stuff going on. Tell Shannon, thanks, guys, so much for always shipping out the stuff. OurLifestylePodcast.com. We've got the new River Run remix, Back to the Future, so much more. Go show some support, cop some gear, put Mike and Shannon to work. Mike, keep doing what you do, and we'll get Sideways. Know his, you know what, next week. You know what I mean?
Peace.
All right, y'all. All right, so Mike dipped, and I'm going to finish this episode up. So I'm going to cover some scene updates. There are some that I've saved over the past couple weeks, and I'm going to kind of merge this with the Airhead Nation updates for this week just to kind of keep things flowing. Want to remind you, if you came here for the Mike Collins interview, thank you so much. Consider following and or subscribing to the podcast, depending on, of course, what type of device or app you're using. Of course, now I think Apple Podcast is technically follow, and then you will be notified. We've done 3 straight years of every Friday free episodes, and if you like this one, no doubt you're going to like the others as well. So the scene updates, here's a couple that I'll just go through, and again, I've saved these the past few weeks. I know one of our good homies and great supporters, Tim Gilbert, he had shared that it was 29 years, their anniversary with his wife, Dawn. So thanks so much for all the support. Ron had posted back on December 20th, my favorite Ron and Kate pick, Happy Born Day again, my friend. So Kate Simpson, of course, great supporters and great folks up in RA. Now, I've seen some updates with the big homie, Brent Hunter, and he was going through some medical stuff over the holiday season. And the last post that I saw, he was out and he's getting back on his feet, so to speak. So, Brent, dude, saw you at SEMA. Great supporter of the podcast. Amazing dude. Overall, big supporter of the scene. Get well, dude. And, you know, let's hope for kind of safer seas here for the rest of the year. Floho Moy, he was on cloud 9. He said he asked his best girl in the world to marry him. And, of course, Callie, she said yes. So, thanks for all the support. He's been on the podcast in the past. Good people. Lauren had posted, Lauren Miller, of course, Greg, rest in peace, his daughter, Lonnie and Radar had a great way to honor her dad at LST. We love this award that Phil Collette had put together. He knocked it out, of course, and that's going to be one of the awards for, or at, I should say, Lone Star Throwdown. It's pretty cool. It's a billet license plate. It says Texas in memory of Greg Miller, 1970 to 2021. So it's got the Scraping the Coast logo in it. Of course, Lone Star Throwdown is at the end of February. We would hope that you come out. It's an amazing event. And it's one that I also like to stay for the awards if I can, because these awards are amazing that Phil puts together. So big ups to the homie and the entire team there. Here's a cool one. This is Webb Browning, and he said threw the cab on just to see, and of course it's looking awesome. So he's got a pretty cool project that's coming together, back half or whole frame rather, and just a badass truck. So keep doing what you do, keep mini trucking, and he's repping, I believe it's Acrophobia. Scott Brunselmeyer, one of our big supporters, great dude. His Mazda, man, I cannot believe late December he started ripping this thing apart. Dude, I loved the interior before, and I don't know what you got up your sleeve, but I'm certainly excited to see it. Mark Zitzer, great dude. We saw him at many shows, and he had a cool photo he had posted where it looked like he had a mini truck and tattoo, but I think it's temporary. You know what I'm saying? But I think he's getting ready for the full-blown tattoo. But big ups to the homie. He's a great supporter of the podcast, and he's always out there hustling and working on his truck. So this one's interesting. We've seen Pascal with the famed Ranger. We've seen him post this before in the past, and I know that he's kind of moved on from this truck. It's one of the baddest, if not the baddest built, and he is, of course, part of the Louisiana Classics. They love rolling in their old school cars, and he's got a whole bunch of cool stuff. I know he had bought some land. He, I think, was working, on his place out there, and, just happy to see all the success. Many of you know Pascal, but you can see him in those windshield commercials, Safelite, or Safelite, I think is how you say it, but always see him. I'm like, hey, I know that guy. Real good dude, but his 2000 Ford Ranger is up for sale. Technically on that engine, less than 1,000 miles, too much to list. And he posted it in the Street Machinery Sales and Service. 117,000 members in there. Of course, this has almost 200 comments, a lot of likes, some different bumps and things like that. And one person even posted in there, question mark, like, hey, you want to trade for a convertible Lincoln on some Detroit Steels? And I was like, dude, that's pretty awesome. He says, unfortunately, it's not the one for me, but I appreciate it. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, that's a pretty cool Lincoln. But at the end of the day, he's asking $60,000, and he's, of course, accepting legitimate offers. This is one of those trucks that's like really a masterpiece, and I hope that whoever ends up with it, let's be honest, at some point someone's going to get this truck, whether it's through a trade, money, whatever. It's one of the baddest built, and again, tip of the cap. This is on the West Coast Influence. The Pascal's on there. Of course, the truck's on there as well, but you could see it on the artwork. And here's a fun fact. That artwork was shot for the cover of the West Coast Influence DVD. It was shot at Lone Star Throwdown in the back parking lot years ago. And you can get that DVD. So a lot of old school folks are here to listen to Mike Collins. If you want to hear the history of mini trucking and kind of that, quote, West Coast influence, just go to minitruckfilm.com. That's a real site. Radar from Lone Star Throwdown paid his own money to produce that film, so to speak, kind of documentary style. Make sure you look it up. Okay, the last couple that I have here, and then we'll move to the next topic. Bob Hayes said 45 years ago today, Kenny, Michelle, my girlfriend at the time, Tina, and I were sitting and we're talking about a new club, and he basically goes on to say Sunset Worldwide, so pretty cool stuff. He had the 45th anniversary that he had posted. Really awesome artwork, as we've always become accustomed to seeing from Bob Hayes. Okay, we have Jeremy French. Man, this is cool to see. I'm more into lowrider style, but I can appreciate this cool-looking mini truck. Now, Mini Truck Evolution is that group, and it was pretty awesome to see the big homie Jameel, City Boy. He is going nutso with his Nissan Hardbody graphics, a nod to hip-hop and all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, it's a wild truck, and I believe it's up my way, is from what Jameel was telling me when he texted me the other day. So I'm excited to see that one. Mini Truck Evolution is where it was posted. Matt Nupp, big supporter, said want to take a second to wish his wife, Heather, a happy born day. So big ups to them. Great people. And then last but not least, at least for this week, Donnie Babb. It's funny, I went to school with a guy, last name Babb, but Donnie Babb has a long post. He said, I have been so nonstop since the beginning of the year that I have not even taken a minute to brag about GaugeMagazine.com turning 23 years old this month. That's right, 23 years of nonstop automotive content. So I don't think here, at least at OLP, give them enough credit. I got a chance to slap hands with Gauge Magazine out at SEMA. They've got a lot of cool content. So if you're sitting at work bored one day or it's slow or whatever, go to GaugeMagazine.com, and that's going to flip you over to their Facebook page, I believe, is kind of where the majority of their stuff goes down these days. Of course, they have Gauge. They have an online store, which I know is a big piece of their business. So pretty cool stuff. But I just want to say, tip of the cap to those guys, and maybe we can highlight them as we get through 2022, because I know they've had, you talk about the pedal stomp, they've had it stomped for a very, very long time. Now, the scene updates is brought to you by Garage Gear Clothing. Garage Gear Clothing, kind of the team behind it, old NC members, and they're great kinfolk. I know Crystal's really the one pulling the puppet strings over there. Go out to garagegearclothing.com. You can place an order. They have men's, ladies, and children on lock. They have all kinds of badass gear. I saw Graphic Disorder was just re-upping some of their merch over, of course, Garage Gear uses Graphic Disorder for their print. And what's awesome is they have free shipping. The only brand that I know of in our scene that offers free shipping in the U.S., garagegearclothing.com. I recently announced the key show updates. Going to scale it back a little bit and really kind of just cover what's in scope here, or any of our key partners in Cory from Mini Truck Showdown, as well as Kern County Showdown. Going to link up with him in just a minute for a quick update that's going to tie into their show, which is in a month, right? So if you're out on the West Coast and you're in Cali and you want to get that old school vibe, or maybe you haven't been to a truck run event in a long time, you just want to get out, keep in mind, Kern County Showdown is the show that's going down in Bakersfield. It's the first weekend in February, and you can Google Kern County Showdown or just go to kerncountyshowdown.com. What's pretty cool is Cory and team, they have been ramping up their events, and I tell you what, they're on the rise, so to speak. So get out to kerncountyshowdown.com, check out the information. And my understanding, we'll hear from him, it is open to the public. Mike talked about his event that's going to be in Florida. So if you're in the Southeast or you're in Florida, come on over for his event. He talked about that earlier this year. So outside of that, again, we're going to talk to Cory in just a minute. The key thing that I would tell you, Orange Beach Invasion, we're going to be out there at the end of March. One of our title sponsors. It's an amazing venue. The thing that always resonates with us is you got the premier spots, and you can just walk around down there and hang out and slap hands and see all the badass rides. And then they have a whole nother section as well that you can walk around at the wharf. If the kids are coming with you, they can, of course, go see a movie. They can ride the Ferris wheel. There's so much there. One of the best venues in the country, hands down. And that's Keg Media, partnered up, of course, with Custom Car Show Productions. We love the event. We've been out there multiple years in a row, and we'll be out there again. That's all I want to cover right now from the Key Show update, so let's roll into the audio with Cory. I'm going to call him right now and see what he's got going on. Hey, as I just said, we're going to roll in. Man, dude, I just called the big homie Cory. You always pick up when I call, man. How you doing?
I'm doing out here in this lovely Cali weather where don't know if it wants to rain, snow, or be hot as hell.
Dude, I thought Tony had the song "It Never Rains in Southern California" or whatever, back in the day. But, dude, check this out, man. We're excited for 5 months down the road. We always talk about the flagship event for you guys, right? But I want to remind everyone that in about a month, although you guys started your other show in Bakersfield, as we've talked about before, it's kind of made its way over to Vegas, right? And that's later this year. But in about 4 weeks, give or take, I know you're counting the days, you guys are having Kern County Showdown over in Bakersfield, kind of the mecca of a lot of mini truckers over the years. So talk to us a little bit about, what are those key updates that you got for Kern County Showdown next month?
Well, pre-reg just closed. For all of you still trying to get a spot, I would recommend you, quote unquote, go to our website, because a little birdie told me today that the website is still up. So there's a last chance to get your last minute pre-reg in. Besides that, we've got a lot of stuff going on. I mean, we're opening up indoor showing for the first time at one of our events. We've already got pretty much both of the halls completely filled already with indoor showing. We're thinking about opening up a third hall as well. We've got the new minis bed dance that's going to be happening between, desirable ones, the exotic ones. Little Maniacs are going to be there. Illegal will be there. We got some other clubs from up in the Bay Area near San Francisco that are coming. So there's that. We've got the GMOS Custom Vehicle Limbo, which will be going on as well near the stage. Tons of vendors. As far as mini updates, we're bringing in DJ Getlow from Arkansas. He's coming out to our event. He's going to be the one spinning up there on stage for you guys all weekend long. If you guys are looking to buy or purchase tickets for like your friends and family, or whatever, or if you're just a spectator wanting to come out and check the show out, you guys can go to our website and buy general admission tickets. It's the first event that we've done where we have general admission, so we're pretty excited about that part as well, because it opens up a whole different avenue for our event.
Yeah, most definitely. On Facebook or Instagram, 3 words, Kern, Kern, County Showdown. That'll, of course, Instagram bio will bring you to kerncountyshowdown.com. One of the things I think is fantastic is you've gotten a lot of different media brands on board, like Grinder TV, our good friend Brian, Mini Truck Era magazine, which we're going to be highlighting them hopefully in the next several weeks. And then Street Trucks is even, I saw one of your recent posts about them. How excited are you for, although we talked about in the past, right? You did have to pull out of Bakersfield. It was the right decision at the right time based upon everything that was going on, right? The pandemic, your other show pulls out of there. But what I love, Cory, is you don't cut and run. You guys come back and say, you know what? We know we can have a successful event here. How important is it for all of the mini truckers and enthusiasts out in California to come and support this event so you guys can keep it going?
Well, I mean, that's the only thing that ever keeps any event going. You know what I mean? Is people going to the shows. If you don't go to a show, then shows die off, which we've seen over the years. The one thing that we're doing different this year with this show is that, I mean, we open it up to a broader, vast category of vehicles. So it's not just mini trucks now. We're opening it up to the lowriders. We're opening it up to bombs. We're opening it up to, these full-size builds, which is why, in the name it says Kern County Showdown, because we want to bring one of the biggest and most, I guess you can say, prestige shows that has class to the West Coast. Along with, making sure that the vehicles that are coming are top quality vehicles. We understand that a lot of people have under construction vehicles. I myself, we're not going to exclude those guys from coming and showing, because you got to start somewhere. But for all the guys that have, like, the minis or full sizes, 4x4s, hot rods, customs, lowriders, it doesn't matter. Bring them out. This show is already set to be one of the biggest shows in Kern County for 2022. And like I mentioned just a little bit ago, we've already completely almost sold out 2 halls. We want to make sure that we sell out that third hall, because no other mini truck show on the West Coast does indoor showing. So we want to bring a different classification. We want the guys that have, the full displays, like
Far From Losing, and some of those trucks that we've seen recently showing, with the full-blown deal.
That thing, that truck was done, 20 years ago?
Yes.
And nobody out here in Cali has seen it in the last 10 years. Tom Jenkins, the owner of it, I was just talking with him last night. He's done amazing getting that truck all over the country.
Oh, yeah.
We would much love to have him and Joey with
Relax Taco.
Relax Taco come out and be at our event. I'm good friends with both of them. And it's just it depends on if it fits into their show schedule. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Because we are a new show, which is understandable. You know what I mean? And they want to make sure that if they take their vehicles out to certain shows, they want to make sure that they're shown the way they're supposed to be shown.
Yeah, and check this out. So, a lot of the listeners that have come here, maybe they're new listeners, and they're here for Mike Collins, right? Old school OG. We're getting ready to roll into his audio in just a bit. But here's the ironic thing. A lot of the mini truckers that grew up in the 80s, like Mike, into the 90s, and then, of course, the 90s exploded. Of course, you've got the old school guys, like Sunset, right, with Rezo and stuff. Any of those guys will tell you over the past 40, 45 years, a lot of river runs have come and gone. Rest in peace to Ernie Macias. Ernie even said, man, it's crazy that these river runs are gone. But what we're starting to see, and we appreciate someone like you, Cory, is a new, I don't want to say a new era, but you have someone like yourself and your team that have stepped up to say, hey, listen, we love Mini Truckin', and Mini Truckin' is not dead. We're going to make sure we're doing our part. And to me, the West Coast, we all know, played a huge influence and a huge part of Mini Truckin' culture. So it's fantastic that you guys are keeping the tradition alive out there in the West.
So I'm a Cali boy. I'm born and raised right here in the Central Valley in Bakersfield, California. The thing about, how I got into the lifestyle, if you go back and you listen like 2 years ago on one of the episodes that you had me on, I got introduced to mini trucking during Freak Fest. That at the time was the largest event that happened back in the early 2000s.
I remember.
I think it was like 2004, 5, and 6. It was insane. There had never been a run done like it before. At the time, it was one of the most predominant shows out there because not only was it a run, but they brought in major bands like Cottonmouth Kings. Let's see, Edema. They had Relapse Trigger out there. You name it, it was there at the event. So that's where I stem from. Now, I've seen over the time and over generations and over the years that, everything changes, but the one thing that will never leave is the fact that I love mini trucking. I've loved it for years. I used to be a kid out in the garage reading, Mini Truckin' Mag. I used to wait for the next issue to come out all the time when it was on the shelves, rest in peace, Mini Truck Mag. As for that, that's something that's never going to leave. That's never going to leave the West Coast. It doesn't matter what you do, just like you said with Mike Collins, the West Coast scene out here has always been putting it down, and it will always be putting it down for generations to come.
Yeah, real deal. And what I would encourage the listeners out there, right, if you've got friends out in Cali, Arizona, message them. Say, hey, check out Kern County Showdown in a month, okay? Get out there. Let's not look at it and go, oh, well, Cory's a younger guy. He's trying to, do this or that. He's already proved himself. They had a show there. They moved it to Vegas. It was even more successful. They're going to be doing that. We're going to be talking about that a lot more as the year goes on. First weekend in June, of course, we'll be out there in Vegas. But for Kern County Showdown, listen, if you guys want the shows to continue, just like magazines, you got to subscribe. You got to go to the events, as Cory said. So, Cory, KernCountyShowdown.com. Of course, it's the 4th through the 6th, technically, next month. So, give or take in about a month. I know Custom Life is also going to be out there, a lot of clubs that you mentioned. What's the one single, if you had to narrow it down to the top question you get? Is it, can I still pre-register? What is it, the number one question you've been getting?
Number one question I get, that kind of boils down to like 3. Is it open to the public? Is pre-reg still open? Can I buy general admission tickets?
Boom.
And all of them are, yes, you can.
Boom. Yeah, so if you want to go there for the day with your son, daughter, significant other, you want to relive some old mini trucking memories, there's going to be a lot of old school folks out there. You mentioned some of the clubs. Listen, Brian Good from Grindr told me this. He goes, yo, Jay, there's a huge resurgence of mini trucks on the West. And he goes, a lot of these guys aren't even old school mini truckers, right? It's not to take away from them. But you see on social media, like some of these pages, I'm like, dude, these guys are full-blown picnics every weekend. I know New Minis is in the mix there, Flow hosts a little bit. But you got a lot of kinfolk out there. And to me, it's on the rise, as we always say. But the important thing is we got to keep that momentum coming, right? So get out to Kern County Showdown and show your support for the scene, right?
Well, just like you were saying with all the different clubs, just for Kern County Showdown, we've got 34, 35 clubs signed up to come. You figure 10, maybe 5, 10, 15 members per club that bring their vehicles. That's a show. That right there is a show.
That's top ropes right there, brother. I'm excited for this one. Now, Mike and I, we've said we can't make it out to this one, but I do want to hit on, before we let you go, did you have anything else for Kern County Showdown before we talk about Mini Truck Showdown, which is a whole nother damn event?
Just make sure that if you guys are coming to the Kern County Showdown, if you guys, like I said, the little birdie told me pre-reg is still open, get on there and do it because it's going to close next week. As for that, we've got top 40 awards, several best ofs that are all being done by Creative House Awards. As for that, let's roll into any questions you got for MTS.
Yeah, creative dude. Love Doug Johnson. Love what he does. He recently did the Street Trucks Best of Awards. So tip of the cap to the big homie. But listen, before we let you go, we can't get you on the phone and not talk about the flagship event, right? I know that you have a lot of ambitions to run multiple shows, and I love what you're doing so far with these two. Mini Truck Showdown, first weekend in June, right? What are a couple of the updates that you might have? Can they pre-register still? What's going down with Mini Truck Showdown, which is in, oh, by the way, 5 months from now?
Yeah, so we've got back-to-back events. Mini Truck Showdown pre-reg is relaunched for the second time. Hotel reservations are up and ready to go. Make sure you guys book your hotel through Bally's because we don't want anybody drinking and driving. We don't want anybody going out and doing something stupid that's going to cause, possibly harm to them or harm to somebody else and lose a beautiful ride. The one thing that, we've seen throughout the years is people drink, get busted, car gets impounded, or, possible death. We don't want that. So make sure you guys stay where the party's at Bally's. The link is on the website, minitruckshowdown.com. Go to event pricing. It'll bring up the pre-registration link along with the hotel reservation link. From last year's show at Palace Station to now, we have quadrupled or at least 5 times the amount of space that we did last year. So there won't be an issue of running out of space where we have to keep it capped at 250 to 260 vehicles. We can have 5, 6, 7, 800 vehicles at this location with no problem. So for all you guys who missed out last year, get in touch with us. Hit us up on email, minitruckshowdown at gmail.com. Give me a call, 661-303-6373, or go to our website and send us a message as well. We want to make sure that everybody is taken care of this year. We understand that we had some issues last year with the show, but everything else besides that went off flawless. One of the things that we did to correct the issues is we have some prestige judges coming in for both events, the Kern County Showdown and the Mini Truck Showdown. They're the ones that help out with the Lowrider Super Shows, the events in the Bay Area, the events in Arizona, and all over California. So these guys will be on site. They will be handling the judging, and that'll be taken care of and out of our hands. So I know that was kind of an issue last year, but we want to reassure everybody that that won't happen again.
Yeah, real deal. The way you rattle off your phone number, I swear you need to get with Mike Jones and drop a remix, you know what I mean? When he's like 281-330, right? But no, in all seriousness,
right?
Cory from Mini Truck Showdown, obviously their flagship event, we've been talking about it. It's going to be the first weekend in June. But the cool thing is, many of you, kind of always say, I always wanted to go to Vegas. Maybe I haven't made it. Maybe you want to go to SEMA and you want to kind of do a dry run to kind of see how things are. The city is easy to get around. There's plenty of public transit, Uber, Lyft, all that fun stuff. And there's a lot of stuff to do. Oh, by the way, there's a car show going down, truck show rather.
Right.
So, Cory, we're so excited for the continued success. But most importantly, Mike and I talk about this all the time. We're always excited when someone puts their neck out and goes, hey, we're going to do a show. Because as you know, it's not easy. So thanks for what you do for the scene, dog.
Well, I mean, Mini Truck Showdown is where it all started. Like you mentioned that it left California and it came out here to Vegas. I even have it branded in skin, because it's my baby. It's one of the things that I put a lot of effort and a lot of time into. And, it wouldn't be possible without the help of the club, from Gary, Lori, Heath and Nikki, Joey, Nathan, Robert, my pops who handles security, everything. Even my admin staff, Leah and Adam, they make sure that everything runs smoothly on the back end. It's not just, a one-man show anymore. There's a team now that has to make sure that everything runs smoothly.
Yeah, real deal. And I know he doesn't want me to talk about this. Hank from Hammered Weekend Wear, I mean, I think if we could somehow fly him in, he said he'd be willing to get a Mini Truck Showdown face tattoo. But, we'll have to see because, he could have been boozing when he said that. So we'll see. You know what I mean?
If Hank is willing to do that, I will pay for it.
Dude, see, that's what I'm saying.
I will pay for it.
That's called stepping up to the scene right there. Cory, dude, Kern County Showdown a month from now. Mini Truck Showdown 5 months from now. Get out to Bakersfield, Cali in a month, Killicali, and then, of course, in 5 months or so, we'll be out in Vegas. Dude, be safe out there on the road, and thank you so much for what you guys do for the scene, brother.
No problem, man. We like to keep it alive out here, and we look forward to seeing you guys in June for the Mini Truck Showdown.
And that's Real Than Real Deal Holyfield. Thank you so much, Cory.
No problem, man.
Hey, thanks so much, Cory, for the updates, dude. That's awesome stuff. We're super stoked. I'm going to wrap this up now with the OLP updates, right? So Our Lifestyle Podcast, also known as OLP. Do us a favor. If you're on an iPhone device, go in. You're more than likely listening to this podcast through the pre-installed Purple Podcast app, which is the Apple app. Go into it, tap Library, select OLP. Hopefully you're following us now. And scroll down and make sure you leave a 5-star rating. All you have to do is tap the 5 stars. You tap the 5 stars, boom, we appreciate that. If you want to go a step further, right beneath that, you can tap on where it says write a review. And you can thumb in a few comments. Hey, love the podcast, love the show, loved Mike Collins' episode, whatever. But if you leave a comment, that's kind of like step 2. And we really go, dude, pat on the back. Thank you so much. So at least leave a 5-star rating. If nothing else, also beneath that, tap write a review. We really appreciate it. Now, typically we cover a lot of show dates. And I did spend time over the Christmas holiday season updating the calendar. And you could subscribe to this digital calendar. And as far as I know, it's the only we're the only folks out there that are doing a digital calendar. I got this idea because a lot of people sell calendars, and I think they're awesome. But a lot of us, we're in the digital world now, right? So if you are also in the digital world, go to ourlifestylepodcast.com, click on official OLP show calendar. Once you go there, click on here where it says to subscribe and subscribe to our digital calendar. Now, the cool thing when you do that, once you click allow, that'll download to your iPhone or Android calendar. You can unsubscribe at any time, but basically what it does is it takes any of the dates that we've added to that calendar, and it allows for you to see all those in your phone. Great thing about iPhone is when you go to calendar, you can even sort by unselecting that calendar, and then boom, those dates are removed. You tap it again, and those dates are back on. So I spent a lot of time going through a lot of different shows, and some that we didn't even have on our calendar in the past, to be honest. There's reminders in there. There's also links to potentially Facebook pages, events, or even Instagram pages. So, again, it's all curated right there for you, and you can go in there at any time and start looking at dates if you're planning a long weekend or whatever. OurLifestylePodcast.com, left side, click on official OLP show calendar, and then tap on where it says click here. So that's the main podcast updates that we have for this week. If you want to buy merch, including the new River Run remix that features Mike Collins' Skybody on it, go to ourlifestylepodcast.com and you can purchase it. All of those items there are all in stock, right? This is the first time that we had a flagship merchandise launch like this. And it was not a pre-sale, it was not a pre-order. It was straight, buy it, and it's in stock, and it ships usually within a day. Mike, for those that don't know, works at the post office, and he gets to go there every day. So Shannon packages it, and Mike takes it. That's what we learned recently when we asked Mike, what would you say you do around here, Mike? All right, Joey at Get Decked, he sponsored this section. If you are a show promoter or you want to add your significant other's vehicle, maybe Mike Collins wants to put Skybody on a skate deck, okay? Now, we're getting ready to do this. We're going to have them very, very soon. But if you want to add Skybody or any vehicle to a skate deck or a photo, hit up Joey at Get Decked. You go on Facebook or Instagram and type in Get Decked, 2 words. It's going to pop up Joey Dilworth. He'll take care of you. We've seen a bunch of show promoters jump on board with this, like Jason Bell and team over at Southeast Mini Nats. They're able to take their merchandise. They've already paid for their artwork, and now they can put it on a new piece. And for all of us that love skate decks or skateboards or, hooking up our man cave, so to speak, that's what we do. We hook it up, but Joey at Get Decked will get you squared away. Hit him up. So we really appreciate, if you're a new listener, thank you so much for coming through. Usually Mike and I will do that full intro together, and then we'll have our title guest, which, of course, this week is Mike Collins. I want to thank Hammered Weekend Wear. They are one of the biggest, baddest clothing lines in this truck scene. They launch about 24 new pieces per year, and they're the only crew that we know that offers a yearly t-shirt subscription. Go to HAMMERD, weekendwear.com. Here's the cool thing. They just launched 2 new shirts, and they are freaking awesome. One features Severed Ties Body Drop, which I think is fantastic. And, of course, it's Body Drop Everything. If you've ever watched Monster Garage, I'm sure that you've seen Body Drop on there. Also, Rocco's Apache. This truck was in one of the wildfires in California, is my understanding, and it was burned to a crisp. Devious Customs and them brought it back, and it has that amazing patina, burned patina to it. These 2 items are available on a shirt, HAMMERD, weekendwear.com. All right, with that being said, have a safe weekend. Let's roll into the audio. We got you. Peace. Hey, and as I mentioned earlier, we're going to transition into our guest and want to just welcome Mike Collins to the podcast. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Jason.
Hey, man, thank you so much for just taking the time to talk about some of the old times, man. I'm so excited to talk about, so much. But why don't you just start a little bit with a little bit of information about yourself? Like, did you grow up in Southern California?
Yeah, I grew up in North San Diego County in a town called Fallbrook. And it was when I was in high school in Fallbrook's when I got into mini trucks. I had a 520 Datsun. And, me and my brother, we had a friend, David, who kind of got us into it. And we would go down to Escondido, religiously every Friday and Saturday night to Cruz Valley Parkway. And it was kind of through David and his brother Dirk that his brother was in high anxiety. And David was in Southern Coast, and through chumming along and tagging along with David and stuff and going to Southern Coast meetings, I was kind of heading towards getting into Southern Coast when the club kind of fractured and it split. And my first truck club was called Serious Side Truckers.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I had my 520 Datsun when I was in there. And, obviously I was more interested in getting a new truck, and I had my sights set on the new Nissan hard bodies that were coming out in '86, and I think it was December of '86 is when I got my Nissan. It was a '87, and once I got that, I brought it home. Within the first 4 hours, I had it lowered down, stole the wheels and tires off my Datsun, and had a pretty clean looking little mini truck, that moved along pretty well.
Yeah, and that was the white. So I'm trying to guess here from photos. That was the white truck, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I only had the 2 mini trucks, the Datsun and the Nissan, and it was just a stripped down plastic interior, white. I think the thing cost me $6,700 out the door.
Wow. And
I think I had a $260 a month truck payment, which I had no idea how I was going to make back then. Right. And, but I loved it. It was a great truck, and, I couldn't wait to get it home. I had to go through a couple dealerships with my dad, and we walked out of a couple on over a tank of gas and all that kind of nonsense. To my dad's, I'll be damned if we're going to buy a new truck and they're not going to give you a tank of gas. And I'm all, but I'll put gas in it. I want the truck. He's all, don't worry, they'll call us. And, sure enough, one of them called us back and said, okay, yeah, we'll get you your tank of gas, come back down here. And
Yep.
so I got my truck, and I remember driving it home and pulled it in the garage, and I got like one photograph of it in kind of its stock state. And since I'm in the photo, my mom or somebody must have taken it. Mm-hmm. And we were cranking down the torsions that day and putting blocks in the back and putting the wheels on and trying to get it up to an alignment shop. And I'm sure I was down on Valley Parkway that night down in Escondido. And I drove around that truck, for quite a while, lowered. Mm-hmm. And that Serious Side Truck Club, I was kind of in there, and it wasn't really that cool. It was a bunch of older weirdos. They were probably about 26 or 27 at the time, and I was just like, what the fuck? And I ran into these guys up in Temecula one night that lived like up in Lake Elsinore, and it was styling minis. And
okay,
they had loud stereos, because the Serious Side trucks, some of them were kind of hip, some of them were kind of that goofy late 70s look with the Serious rake and the multi-level shells and diamond windows. But it was a transitional period for mini trucking when
I agree.
When I got into it. But I got into styling. There's a lot more people like my age, just coming out of high school, late teens into their early 20s, and hung around with them, and then got into another truck club. And it's funny because I've been trying to think back on a lot of this stuff that was 30 years ago, and I don't remember why I left any of the clubs I left, but I always seem to remember getting into a new one. And from there, me and my brother and our friends, we kind of went to another truck club called Ecstasy, who we used to hang around with when we were in styling anyway.
Right.
And it was fun. I mean, we would do stuff. We'd go cruise up to Angelo's on State College Boulevard up in Anaheim. We'd go up to Riverside and cruise Market Street. And then we would still come back down to San Diego and go to Escondido, and we'd go to Oceanside and cruise Hill Street. It was like a lot of cruising, going out and being in places. And, but, like right now, as we're talking, I'm doing 5 miles an hour on the way home from work. And I think it's a lot of this is what prevents a lot of that from happening anymore, is you can't get anywhere.
Yeah, because in California, the traffic is just, we all hear about it, but it's just bumper to bumper.
Oh, yeah. I'm up to 15 now, so we're really moving.
Well, we got plenty of time to talk about, so many cool things. And one of the old photos you shared forever ago on Instagram, when the truck was, obviously the white Nissan we'll talk about kind of the legacy that it got to, but you even went and you added the topper to it, right? And that topper, that always kind of, the one that has like the multi-windows in it on the side, that always reminded me kind of like I think almost like a Pathfinder look that they kind of went to.
Yeah, it was a Pathfinder shell. One of my friends had it, and then I had like this custom tonneau cover and a bra that matched. And he really liked it and liked the way it looked on his truck. And he had a black Nissan hardbody, and he had this white shell on it, which kind of had like a different look. He had a white bra and a white shell, and I don't know, he wanted my bra and my tonneau cover, so we ended up trading for that, and then that's how I got the Pathfinder shell. And it kind of gave it the Pathfinder look with the ability of taking the shell off. Because back then the Pathfinder was a part of the body on those early Nissan Pathfinders.
Yep. And it looks like it had you also had, like, in those days you guys were running like aluminum wheels too, right?
Yeah, I had some 15.8, they were Inkies or some knockoff of Inkies with some 50 series stretched on, little mini pasta pots. And it was kind of before everybody was like, serious about tucking wheels and body dropping and all that.
Oh, yeah. Now, I meant to bring up too a second ago. I think you were going to say something, but like when you guys were out cruising, right, and you guys were hitting up, like you said, Anaheim and Riverside and different places. I'd imagine like in those days, you probably had your tape cassettes. Like what kind of, what were you guys rolling to back in those days? Some Beastie Boys, or like do you have any like songs and music that kind of resonates with you from that time period?
Oh no, yeah, Beastie Boys was really big at the time because it had a lot of bass.
Oh yeah,
and it was just kind of fun, kind of partying music. And then I like the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Cult, Social Distortion,
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of stuff. A lot of we had a radio station in San Diego called 91X, and we had K Rock up in LA that played kind of like new wave music and kind of, I guess, mellow or kind of punk. You wouldn't hear a lot of Black Flag on there.
Right.
Or Vandals or Fear. But yeah, I'd listen to that. And then we'd go to truck runs. And then there was a category that we would refer to as truck run music, which, I still hear it to this day. It's like, wow, truck run music.
Yes.
But what it was is what you would hear if you went to Florentine Gardens up in Hollywood, just dance club music.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, back then going to truck runs, the big thing was that everybody wanted to have a big party in their camp, and some of them would like rent these tents, and they'd put these tents up and they'd bring generators in and set up these massive DJ systems. And I mean, it was crazy. It was fun. I don't know if they do it anymore like that, but it really added to the, you'd get through the truck run, they'd have the truck show on Saturday morning, and then they would be doing the games like the bat circle relay and the beer chug and volleyball and all that stuff. And then it would just kind of evolve into kind of a whole nightlife kind of thing. But, nobody was getting dressed up in their Saturday night satins for the dance club because, we are in a campground, which is probably in a dirt hole by some lake or something.
Yep.
And, but yeah, it was fun,
Yeah.
And then we'd wake up with like these hellacious hangovers on Sunday morning and try to figure out where our other shoe was or our sunglasses from the day before, and then make the trek home.
Yeah. We recently, I came across this book that this guy wrote. He was in a club out there, and his nickname was Tall Guy, Local Finesse he was in. And he kind of was more towards the late 90s into the 2000s. But he had a connection to like Sean Mahaney and stuff like that. But in this book, he wrote about a lot of the river run experiences, waking up with a pounding headache and stuff like that. But, some of the same things you're describing, although they might have came, before his kind of era, was, those river runs were definitely kind of the tradition was carried on. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was fun going out to the river, because the journey is like half of the fun, getting there and the anticipation of getting there. And I remember like one time we were driving my Nissan out there, and I had Bill Faborg with me, and this is when I was in Two Hip. And he was all, oh, dude, this is going to be so bitchin'. We're going to get out there, and this thing is all, it's just be just like when we used to take Martelli's truck. And that was probably back in the day out here. That was probably the gnarliest truck. It was Richard Martelli's Toyota. It was called Sky and High. Bill was going, oh yeah, there's gonna be chicks just climbing all over this thing when we get there. And Bill was a few years older than me and stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, it really doesn't work like that, Bill. And he's all, oh yeah, it will. And we got there, and that's when High Body came out.
Uh-huh.
Everybody at the gate was like, oh, Mike, you might as well just go home. There's like this other Nissan here that's on 44s, and it's called High Body. And I'm just like, what do you mean? And, part of having a Nissan hard body was like, you kind of stood out from all the Toyotas,
mm-hmm.
And now it's like, what? There's another Nissan hard body, and unlike Sky Body, it's called High Body.
You're like, come on, man, who's biting off my shit?
Yeah, really. And so Bill, we got to go find this. And we drove by Brian and Sal and all those guys where we were camping at, and drove right by them because they said that this high body truck was down the river a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I remember I pulled up straight up nose to nose with it, and my truck was just a tad higher, I guess. And so I kind of felt better about that. And then while we were sitting there, looking at it and stuff, and it was dark out. So we're looking at it from my headlights. All these girls started coming up. Hey, can I get a ride? Hey, can I get a ride? Hey, can I get a ride? And before we knew it, we had the whole truck bed was like full of girls, and I think we drove it out there without the shell on it. So, it had a walkthrough.
Dude,
And,
those are some good memories right there.
Yeah, it was a good time, and Bill was right. Didn't really happen a lot, but that time it did, which it didn't really amount to nothing after that because they all hopped out and ran back to where they came from. But
yeah, it was just the memory and the notch under the belt.
Like,
hey, yeah, there you go. One of the accounts, I've mentioned this to everyone in the past, Monster Mini Trucks on Instagram, good people, but I've learned through some of the clubs and stuff, and there was one that he's posted a few times, SoCal Mini Stompers, some of those different trucks. But dude, those lifted trucks, which we'll talk more about yours in a few minutes, but I look back at that stuff, and although we didn't have a lot of them over here, man, it's cool to see all the history kind of curated together, on this account.
Oh yeah, Pete Finland, Hot Dog Designs, he told me years ago. He's like, Mike, you can take these lifted trucks, you can go bury them out in the desert. You can go out there 50 years from now and you can unearth it and bring it out, and it's going to grab so much attention. And you could park it next to a Lamborghini. He's all, they never go out of style, and there's just so much for them to look at that people wouldn't even look at the Lamborghini after a while. Mm-hmm. And it's totally true. I mean, you just take a big truck and you put gigantic tires on it, and it's going to be an eye catcher. And the style has never really changed with them, because it's just gigantic springs, gigantic tires, tons of shocks. That's the formula. Whereas, we've talked about the evolution of the lowered truck, how it's gone through like lots of different iterations of looks,
Yeah, for sure. And one of the questions that we had gotten from one of our folks in the Airhead Nation group, they had asked, although we haven't really delved too much into your truck, well, I guess I can ask it later, but like you said, although I think the old school mini trucks, although they kind of have that same formula, one thing that you mentioned to me before we started recording is with a lot of these lifted trucks now, the newer school lifted trucks, they have, like, the wheels have gotten bigger and the tires have gotten a lot smaller. It's like, that's kind of a weird dynamic, but I'm a huge fan of like the old school stuff, from the 80s.
Yeah, it's probably a lot nicer to pay for those smaller tires if you're paying by the pound for the rubber, but
right.
There's probably better performance, because it was tough to turn those gateways.
Yeah.
Especially with my little 2400cc Nissan motor.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. It looks different to me, and that look hasn't really caught on with me. It looks like the guy's waiting for his tires to get delivered to the tire shop so he can go switch them out.
Yeah. You mentioned cruising earlier, but do you think back, we talked about music a little bit, but I remember somehow, even living in Land O'Lakes, my parents got cable TV in the mid-'80s. And it might have been 84-ish, something like that, but I remember watching MTV, and, the Billie Jean video was on, and I Want My MTV, Dire Straits. Do you remember, when the L-Trim, Cars That Go Boom, right? What was ironic is it had mini trucks in it, and they were trucks, not cars. But, of course, that era was so, tied into mini trucks. Do you guys remember, when some of those videos like that would come out, or when, the house party, Kid and Play movies and stuff, and seeing trucks, was that, something like, oh, wow, check that out?
Oh, yeah. It was, whenever you'd see a lowered truck in there, it's almost like when I see them now, it's like, oh, my God, look, there's a lowered truck.
Wow, they still exist.
But, yeah, back then, like you're talking about the stereos, I remember, Audio Chamber, and they used to have sound offs and Zapco and Fosgate amplifiers, Orion, it's like everyone was just gigantic woofers and
oh yeah.
I don't know how whatever evolved with any of that, but I remember, everyone throwing quarters on the roof of somebody's camper shell and watching them all jump up and down. And
yeah. Well, and what was cool too is we had the one of the main guys. We had him on. I'm drawing a blank here. Ruben had hooked us up, and when we had him on, he talked about being on the cover of Truckin, and he worked at Audio Chamber, which was pretty awesome. And I don't know if you've seen this, but guys in like Japan and stuff, they recreated that back Audio Chamber logo that was so synonymous with the trucks of that era, and they've they run those on the truck. And I'm sorry, it was Lee Bauer. He had worked there.
Lee Bauer, right.
Yeah, Lee, as you know. But, who would have thought like that? But when you see those old ads and you see that AC, those colors, dude, that immediately, for me, it brings me back to that era.
Oh, yeah. In studying up for this, I did flip through a couple of the old mini Truckins I have laying around and had my truck in them so I could read the article and figure out what we did on it. But,
right.
Yeah, I remember seeing Lee and the girl in the blue bikini, and leaning up against his yellow Nissan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Since you brought him up, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's good times. And, he mentioned when he was on the cover of Truckin' that time with the yellow, when it was yellow, it was like, you look at it now and he was like ducked down, kind of behind, hiding. And he was like, yeah, I didn't really want to be, in the limelight, so to speak, so, but how ironic was it that, he was in the ad as well, but he didn't, he really didn't want to be in the limelight, but just such a nice guy, man, really old school dude. To kind of transition a little bit, right? We've hinted about your truck, but I'm so excited to talk about Skybody because a lot of people, this one is etched in their minds. And, instead of me kind of going into the few things I know, which isn't a lot about it, can you talk about Skybody and like maybe how the original concept, like you mentioned that when you bought it and it was lowered, but like how did it end up taking on that new transformation?
Well, it ended up taking on the new transformation because really deep down I wanted a big, monster mini, but it was, cost preventative was what was keeping me and probably a lot of other people from doing it because, those tires aren't cheap, and then you start getting into shocks and you got to have, 3 per wheel, and it's not a cheap sport. But my brother, he was in high anxiety, and I really wanted a big lifted truck. He had a big lifted 4Runner, and so I think I got a credit card that had like a $2,000 limit on it or something. And I went down to the bank and I go, I need to get a cash advance on this. And I got the $2,000 and I figured, I go, oh hell, I can afford this $50 a month payment for the rest of my life. And with that mentality, it's like everyth's free,
Right. I know,
just
right?
use this card and just make that payment. And basically I took and and yeah, it was like $2,000. I bought wheels, I bought tires, and I took it down to a welding shop and had them source a Toyota front axle. And we got the front axle. They did a hanger drop, had some springs arched, and basically they put it together, got the drive shaft lengthened. I had a lifted truck, and it only took them like a week.
Wow.
It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and you, like, the cool thing is, like, me, like, I don't know a lot of that stuff. Like, when you went in there,
Okay,
were
players,
you kind of going, hey,
now
man,
it's
that's what I
time to
want to
get
do? And they're
serious.
like, okay, yeah, we can do that. Or were they like, I don't know if we can do that. There's some big-ass tires. Like, how did that conversation go? Like, were they pretty, if they did it in a week, they were pretty good.
Yeah, well, they knew the score. Actually, the shop was called Whip It Welding, and it was Pete Finland's neighbor. They shared the same wall or something. And this guy, John Thomas, he had a big straight axled Chevy S10. And so basically I was like, I want to do what you're doing on your truck, on my truck,
Yep. Got it.
It probably took him longer to get all that independent front suspension shit off of the front of my truck.
Right.
Than it did to weld the hanger drop on there and make the perches on the backside of the frame, measure it, and run down to ENC and get the springs arced.
Thinking back to that era, right? So you're going from this new truck, your dad helps you get it, you guys lower it, cool, thumbs up. So then when your parents catch wind that you're going to be doing this, like were your parents like, hey, you're still paying on that truck? Hell no. Like, how did that conversation go?
No, my parents were always very supportive, and
cool.
They would, when I was doing like the RG canning shows, me and Brian would take my truck, and my parents would drive up. The furthest one I ever did was Ventura, but they would drive up and they would walk straight into the building and see me and Brian standing there, and they would come up and look at my truck, and then all right, well, we're going to get out of here, and they would like walk probably back past the same trucks they walked past or cars on the way in and basically go home. And, my brother kind of broke them in regarding the whole lifted truck thing.
Nice.
And,
yeah, true.
And we had like, our house was always kind of the flop house to where, the garage door was always open. Everybody kind of congregated where we lived, and we lived kind of out off the beaten path out here in Temecula. And, with that being said, we were always working on trucks and doing stuff. And my parents, I think it never bothered them for the fact that they knew as long as we were out in the garage banging around, making noise, that we weren't out getting into trouble or, doing drugs and things like that.
Yep. Good stuff.
Although a little bit later in the story, I'll get to a part where me and Brian did something that really, it took a while to get my mom off the ceiling.
Okay. Yeah. I can't wait to hear that. Now, what's cool is if you can go out, you can follow flamed_Buick55 on Instagram, and you can see some of these photos. But, again, this is not one that I know a lot about, but seeing some photos, you went, obviously we talked about it was lowered when it was new, and then you go to lifted, right? So you kind of talked about that. But it seemed like there was a couple variations when it was lifted and it was white. So before even the paint, because in one of the photos, it looks like that it was maybe it had seats in the back, and then of course you had the topper, right? So did you just sometimes take the topper off, and did it have a walkthrough, or can you talk about that?
Yeah, it had a walkthrough. Back then everybody was running Prelude seats out here, and there was a handful of people out stealing Preludes every weekend to get the seats out of them.
Right. Yep.
And I had one of those friends that was one of those guys that acquired Prelude seats. So
right.
I told him, well, hey, I need a Prelude back seat too. And so magically it appeared for a couple $100. And
fell off a truck.
Basically, I fell off the truck. And basically I just took the Sawzall to the back of the cab and cut it out, folded the cab into the bed and screwed it down, and then just upholstered it. And then I'd always been kind of jealous of my brother's 4Runner because he could pile a couple more people in the back.
Women, right?
Whereas, no, actually it probably wasn't, but
right.
But, we would go cruise the beach. We'd go up to Newport Beach, or we'd go down to San Diego, and it was always funner if you could pile a bunch of people in there in the truck. And since I wasn't going to get a Pathfinder, I might as well make my Nissan truck into a Pathfinder, essentially.
Yeah, and the transformation's crazy because, I could think about the age that you were, you go from a new truck to lower, now lifted. I mean, there's not a lot of trucks. One, obviously, Shondel's comes to mind, that crazy thing. But, going from one, height to the other, and then the iconicness of it is just extraordinary to me. Now, obviously, for those that don't know, talk to us a little bit about the transition from it being in white to the first paint job.
Well, right around that time, my truck was lifted and, just rattle can black undercarriage or, whatever the Cosmoline shit that was all over it. And that was right around the same time where I started hanging out with Brian a lot.
Yep.
And I think he said, what we need to do? We need to like smooth out your frame and paint your frame. I mean, you can see so much of it. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds good to me, And so basically, we were banging around in my parents' garage with very limited tools and probably less knowledge at the time. And, Sal Marchese, he had a 110 welder that we used to weld up all the jig holes in the frame.
Mm-hmm.
We smoothed the whole frame out. And then I was down at the paint store going, God, what color should we paint it? And I had like no idea. I was just kind of flipping through paint books, and I was wearing this green pair of Maui and Son shoes.
Okay.
And I was leaning above the counter looking at the paint book, flipping the pages. And then it got to the point where I just kind of put my hands on my forehead and just looked down, and I saw my shoes kind of on the floor there,
Uh-huh.
And so I popped one off, and I go, hey, can you make me a color similar to this? And that's kind of how the green all started.
Ah, that's cool, man.
You can't really see it in a lot of those photos that I have on my Instagram, but, the frame was painted that green with a pearl white shot over it.
Mm-hmm.
And the axles were painted that color. And, we ground them all down, smoothed them all out. And So that's kind of how the green evolved. I ran around with it for a while, just with the white truck with the green chassis, and painted every other leaf green because I couldn't afford to chrome them all.
Right, right.
And I thought, well, at the time, it's a nice accent, but it really is just being cheap.
Yeah, and then that era, though, too, so for all the listeners, it's like, when I think of Ruben Arteaga, one of our good homies, in RA, and, he had his lower Toyota, these guys out there were like chrome and stuff, but the cool thing, you start having a low truck and, or as you mentioned, body drop, like with Pat's, ballistic. The cool thing about what you had, Mike, was, with it being lifted, you could see all that detail. So, I mean, to me, that's one of the cool things about the lifted mini trucks.
Oh yeah, there's a lot to look at, and if it's well detailed, and some people go, God, it must take forever to clean all that, and it's like, really, it's easy just to clean it. You just hit it with a Windex and wipe it off. It never really got very dirty because you just kind of stay on top of it.
Yep. Now, how long from the point, give or take, right? So you buy the truck, it's lowered a while, topper, this and that, and then boom, it's lifted and then it's painted, at least the original paint job. I mean, are we talking in that original span, 2-3 years-ish, something like that?
Yeah, I would say from getting it, well, I got it at the end of 86, so you figure the truck was essentially deceased in 1990.
Yep.
It all moved pretty quickly.
Yep.
But, we had the undercarriage green, and then I was like, God, I think it needs some more green. And then Brian's all, what we should do is we should fade the green up onto the white, and then I'll paint some stripes, and then we'll get Pete to pinstripe it. And, Brian's always been the visionary, so it's like, yeah, sounds good to me. Let's do it, and so we painted it like that, took it down to Pete. Yeah, I had him pinstripe it, and then I think we put like one more coat of clear on it and then polished it. And then I ran it around like that for a while, and then we decided to do the all-metal convertible.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we were doing the convertible, we were doing this down at Brian's mom's house. And I have pictures where I'm standing on the roof of his mom's house taking pictures while he's sawzalling, through my 2-year-old truck's roof,
Right. Oh,
and,
my goodness.
through that iteration, I went down and I got the springs pulled a little tighter and lifted it a little bit more. That's when I went from the Mickey Thompsons to the Gateway Gumbo Monster Mutters. And then Brian had a jet ski, and it's like, hey, why don't we paint the jet ski to match the truck too?
Sick.
And then we took it down to RG Canning and Del Mar like that.
Wow.
And it was like almost a whole new truck, on the 44s. It was a lot bigger. And then I had like a full display going at this point.
Oh yeah.
And we'd come across some stanchions at a bank or something, so we painted those green and white too. And but it's what everybody that was serious about displaying their vehicles properly at those indoor shows.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like I was the only one doing it. It was like, that's where I was picking up all these ideas, is looking at everybody else's displays. And then, those truck shows, they would give you money if you placed. Mm-hmm. So it was more than a motivation of getting a plastic trophy with a Ferry or a Camaro on the top of it. It was,
right.
Going a little bit of the extra mile, you could actually get some money to kind of offset your expenses, at least getting there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What blows my mind is, just thinking about how, again, I know I said with it lowered to lifted, but then, if you look close, as Mike's talking about, like at the photos, it's like, okay, that it was all white lifted. You have the topper, you have the side tilt topper. You do the graphics, the undercarriage, then you cut the roof off, and then there's that, that whole piece. I mean, I think some that may not know the truck off the top of their head, maybe younger folks or folks on the East Coast, it's like this truck really had so much going on for the first, 3-4 years of it. But I know you mentioned Brian, so Brian Gendro, the OG, we're going to get him on this year. Brian, though, my understanding is he did a lot of the work on the truck, right? The fabrication, and you've kind of hinted at some of that.
Well, some of the initial fabrication was done by that John Thomas.
Oh, that's right.
That Whippet Welding.
Yeah, Whippet Welding. That's right.
But as the truck evolved and as Brian, kind of honed his skills, then when we did make some of the more surgical qualified personnel only changes, Brian was performing a lot of that work. And once we got some better equipment for him to weld with rather than Sal's mom's welder,
Yeah, Sal Marchese. Salute to him. Total chaos. We got him on the list. I got to link up with him. So would you say, like, you've known Brian Gendro a long time, one of your best friends. Like, I don't know all the history in the early days, but this sounds like one of the first trucks, though, that he was, really honing his skills on, like you just said.
Yeah, it was, my truck. It was Sal had a Toyota, and then Brian had like a Mazda, and then my brother had his Toyota 4Runner, and we kind of kept Brian busy. He would give us the shit work to do while he was doing something qualified on one of the other ones, and we would just all work around in circles.
Oh yeah. Did you ever feel like,
yeah.
With the trucks being lifted, right? And this is way before the days now, right? The amenities, you'd call it, where the steps come down and stuff like that. Did you ever feel like your leg wanting to fall off or jumping in that thing, or did it just take a little getting used to?
Well, with it being a standard cab, short bed, little tiny mini truck, walking up the tire was actually pretty easy, because the tire was kind of like right there at the back of the fender.
Yep. Got it.
So, I was always a pretty small guy anyway, so it was just grab on the steering wheel and put one foot on the tire and hop on in and then hop on out.
David Perfader, I believe is how I'm probably saying it wrong. He had posted, I was looking at hashtags and whatnot. He had posted a really cool, one of my favorite photos of it. It looked like it was kind of cut out from a photo album, so it was probably one he found from you, but the truck was white. It was lifted. Undercarriage is all done. You see the Skybody tag, and then there's a girl standing next to it with a pink like bikini on. And you see the back windows out because obviously the cut-through's been done. But even in that version of it, without the graphics, I thought it was freaking awesome.
When I look back on the truck, I really liked it with that look, with the Mickey Thompsons and the solid white. And, yeah, that was for, like, one of those latest craze calendars.
Yeah, okay, got it. That makes sense. Now, Sean Dell in the Airhead Nation, he even chimed in and he said, so I know this is a little off topic, but he goes, ask him about unplugging the stage and telling the next generation to keep it going.
Well, this isn't anything that I was directly the brain trust of, but I was definitely involved with it. The guy that actually developed this is when we were in Two Hip, and this is kind of coming down the stretch. Two Hip, we learned some like pretty good truck run, I guess, gags and stuff at the time. And one of the guys in the club, Mike Shahan, between him and my brother, they probably caused more trouble at truck runs than they had fun. But it was mischievous fun,
right,
and trouble. Yeah. It wasn't like they were out like getting in fights. But we were at I want to say it was like Resolutions or something up in Devore, and I think it was Seductive Minis had this gigantic circus tent, and they had this big tow behind generator running these, kind of disco-ish lights and all their DJ equipment. And I mean, you could probably have heard this thing down in San Bernardino from the where the truck run was. And Mike went back and shut the gas petcock off on the generator, which gave him enough time to get back out to the front where we were standing, and then it just went, it just dropped dead.
Right.
And then you got all these guys kind of scrambling around in circles on the generator. They don't know what's going wrong with it. And it's a big rental unit, and it would we'd be like over there drinking beers and snickering at the whole thing, laughing, and then they would figure out that, hey, the gas got shut off, and then it would all kind of come back to life. But between that and then just kind of stealing ice chests, we were told, by Bill Faborg, it's like, we don't bring beer to these things, we just go steal beer. And he's all the only thing is, it's like you got to crack it open and make sure it's got Coors Light in it. We're not supposed to grab coolers and steal them. We got to make sure the right beer's in them. And I remember we came back from the river one year, the whole bed of my dually was just like full of ice chests that somehow found their way into our camp.
Right.
And I mean, I still have the flagship ice chest that lives in the back of my Buick, when I go to car shows and stuff, that came from the river. And hopefully nobody out there listening is missing a green Coleman.
Oh, I know.
But,
I know, right? They're like, gonna be, damn it. It was those crazy guys there.
We came back with one cooler one night, though, that had someone's insulin in it. So once we got the beer out of it, we did bring that ice chest back.
Yep. Now, I wasn't expecting to have this many awesome comments in the group. Gendro, the OG, has spoken, and he said, ask him how much one of those 44-inch tires cost after your exhaust falls off and slices it. So there must have been some sort of craziness there.
Yeah, me and Brian were driving from Temecula back to his house in Escondido one night, and we're driving along, and my muffler fell off, and we drove over it. And it flattened it like a pancake, but the bracket knifed into the tread on it, and it was like, there was no like sticking a plug in this thing. It was like
a $10 plug.
It was like a tire that had like a good inch and a half of tread on it, essentially, that was basically just garbage because it was punctured.
Yeah, and that's hard when you're younger. You're like, really? I got to buy a whole new tire? And those are big-ass tires.
Yeah, they were big and they were expensive, but I never really felt too bad about the expense because when you left the tire shop, you got a lot of tire for your money.
Yes, true.
Where I remember paying just about as much for a 50 series tire,
I see what you're saying.
And
yeah.
What do you leave with that?
In comparison.
Yeah, you leave with a black rubber band on a wheel as opposed to a gigantic black tire.
More rubber for the buck,
Yeah. But to be honest, I have no idea what those tires cost anymore.
I know, right? Yeah, I can imagine.
But I bet you back then it probably seemed like a lot, but like right now it probably seemed like nothing compared to what they would go for these days.
Mm-hmm. Now, going back to the timeline of the truck, right? So we've talked about some of the history, but talk to us about the transition from the white version to black, right? Because to me, it seemed like it transformed the whole truck, but really when I look back at photos, it does seem like the main thing was the top color changed, right?
Yeah, that was a component of RG canning. At that time, like I said, I was like really into going to truck shows, and I was really interested in, displaying the truck, very, I don't know if professionally is the right word, but,
kind of on a higher level. Yeah,
I wanted to have a good showing. And so I felt that, between the display and everything we had going on with the truck that wasn't supposed to be that tall and didn't come out of Japan with the capability of just changing the springs, that I had a pretty nice truck, and it was very well rounded. Everything had been touched. Now, granted, this is a couple teenagers building it in their parents' garage, like I said, with limited tools. So it was a good from far truck, but you get up on it, it kind of shadowed like far from good in places,
Sure.
But like I said, we were going to these RG canning shows, and I was consistently getting like third place, and I could never understand why. And I would go and complain to the head judge, Tony Morjan, who I think was the council president at the time too. Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, Tony, how do I keep losing to that? Basically, it was a stock blue Toyota. It had like maybe 36s on it. It was after 86, so it was IFS. Mm-hmm. And it was a good looking truck. If you saw it drive down the street, you'd go, oh, that's a fucking nice looking truck there.
Right.
It had a bunch of pink shock boots and a bunch of white Ranchos, but it didn't grab me as being a show truck. But what I learned through this experience was Tony's all, well, there's a lot of stuff done on your truck, Mike, but a lot of it's not really done all that great. And so when they had their points judging sheet, if you have a stock frame with jig holes in it and it's got the Japanese black paint on it, you get 0 points, right? But if you have a green frame that you welded all the jig holes up and some brake fluid kind of ran down on it and ate through the paint in one area, now you start losing points, right?
Okay.
So it's like the more you do, the more you open yourself up to scrutinization. And he's all, besides Mike, he's all, your truck's always the same, And I'm just thinking like, well, geez, it's like I didn't realize that we had to evolve the trucks on a weekly basis, because all these shows were about a week apart. So we were at the Anaheim RG Canning, and me and Brian were coming home in it on Sunday night. And, I'm like 3 shades of pissed off that I lost. I didn't win the trophy, and which, in hindsight seems completely ridiculous now. But
right, it was of the age. Yeah, I get it.
I was just like, I can't believe it. I keep losing to that stock truck. It's like, what the fuck, And he said my truck's always the same. And then I don't know if it was me or Brian, but it was probably Brian goes, well, why don't we paint it black before next weekend before we take it up to Ventura?
No way.
And I'm all, you think we got enough time? He's like, yeah, we got enough time. And granted, we had to work, so we're only working on it in the evenings. And so we got home Sunday night and we just started tearing the whole thing apart, pulled it into the garage, and we're just blowing the whole thing apart, took everything off the fenders of the motor. Because we painted the motor compartment, we jammed it, everything. It wasn't like you opened the doors and it was still white. If we were going to do it, we're going to do it at least to the best of our abilities the right way and complete. And so we got that thing painted, and this is the part I was talking about earlier with my parents was we're coming down to the wire, and those RG Canning shows were in the wintertime, kind of from January till March. And so, it was cold, and we're painting in the garage, and this is before they had the automated trash trucks that would come and lift the trash cans that.
Right.
So everybody had regular trash cans. So we were bringing trash cans into my parents' house after my parents went to bed. And my dad's only rule was, I don't care what you guys do in the garage, as long as you can get your mother's car in there at the end of the night, you can do whatever you want.
Yep.
And so we're spraying stuff, and we're opening the 2 front doors to the house, or we're bringing the hood, we're bringing the doors, we're bringing the tailgate into the house to dry.
That's awesome.
And setting it on the trash cans that were on the side of the house, a few hours before. And, whenever we went to sleep, the next morning my mom comes in and goes, what in the hell are you trying to do? Asphyxiate all of us? You were so stupid, bringing that stuff into the house, you're trying to kill us. And, the whole house smelled like a paint booth.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you were talking about earlier, where she almost was like not going to let you go from that one.
Oh, yeah. And you figure that's when paint was paint, too. It wasn't all water-based either.
Right. That was now I know why G.I. Joe did the public service announcements when they're like, if you're spraying paint, do it in a wide open area,
Yeah, well-ventilated.
Right, well-ventilated.
But yeah, so, we got the truck all back together Thursday night, and then we towed it up there. And we met up with this other guy up in Manhattan Beach, Mike Norman, who had that big Manhattan Beach Tonka toy truck. And we went up to Ventura, unloaded it, went inside there and set it up in the exhibition halls. And then come Sunday night, there's Mike getting his 3rd place trophy again, losing to Bob Torres's very nice street pounder.
Wow. You're like...
But, that was the last time I showed my truck. I said that night, I go, I'll never show this ever again. And then from that point on, because that's when you'd go to a truck run and stuff, and they would have like judging sheets.
Yep.
And they would have like judges go around and they would like look at things, and they would check boxes and mark things up and make notes. And I always enjoyed standing back and watching people look at the picture of my truck where it was lowered on the ground. And for a while, I used to bring one of the A-arms with one of the 50 series tires on it and lay it down there. And I loved watching people enjoy it or point at things and look at it. And it was that day I go, do I really give a fuck about these stupid trophies and whatever measly cash that I completely eclipsed just getting the truck here?
Right. Fuel or all that.
Yeah. And I'm all... So from that point on, I just displayed my truck, and I go, I'm not interested in being part of the car show or a truck show or whatever it is. I go, I just want to have it parked here. That was always good enough for me from that point. And I've kind of carried that whole philosophy into where I'm at now with my Buick and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Funny story about my Buick along those lines, if we can take this.
Oh, yeah.
When me and Eric Jackson, we flamed my Buick, we took it up to this KKOA car show that was out here in Riverside. And when we pulled through the gate, I went up there with my friend Billy. We pulled through the gate and we went and parked, and the guy that was behind us came up and goes, "Hey, they forgot to give you these cards, you know, the ones you put on your windshield to identify your car." And he handed me mine, and I just crumpled it up and just kind of threw it. And I'm all, I wouldn't even have a car if they just let me bring my ice chest in here. You know, it's like, I'm not interested in the car show component.
Yep.
And then this is right around the same time. So this is probably 98.
Okay.
It was the summer of 98 when we flamed it. Me and Billy are walking around, and this is when people started picking up a bunch of shit on the floor of their shops and welding it together and making a trophy out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, making homemade kind of unique trophies.
Yeah,
and
with flywheels and camshafts and all that stuff.
Yeah, all that leftover junk. And there was one that was like hottest flames. And I'm all, geez, I go, God, I'd like to win that, you know, and give that to Eric, you know, because he would really appreciate it, you know, because it was, you know, his vision on my flames. I told him, I go, I want it flamed from the headlights to the taillights. But, you know, he's the one that, you know, took, you know, my verbal description and made it a reality. And so I showed him a picture of a 50 Merc that I took up in Paso. I go, can we do something like this? And he's all, oh, we can do something like that, but we'll do it differently. And so after we had walked around and saw those trophies, I go, God, I would sure hate to lose on a technicality, you know. Oh, we were going to give it to that flame Buick over there, but since we don't know whose it is, we gave it to this guy with this 55 Chevy, you know.
Yeah, we didn't have a sheet.
So I'm all, fuck. Yeah, so I'm all, I could go find that thing. So I went, I found it, and I straightened it all out and stuck it on my windshield.
Like Spicoli in Fast Times or something, you know.
Yeah, so we're sitting there later in the day, and that Merc shows up there. And I'm all, oh, so much for that, you know. I kind of wasted my time digging that thing out of the trash. And then he split, and then later on that day, the car ended up, you know, being awarded the Hottest Flames trophy, which I, you know, very proudly went up and got, and I, you know, gave to Eric as soon as I saw him again. And, you know, he was really appreciative and dug it, you know.
That's so
but,
awesome.
Yeah, as far as car shows go and judging, it's like, that was another thing about RG Canning. It turned, I think one time my thing was like, oh, yeah, let's go judge your truck. You know, where's your truck at? I want to go see it, you know, because who says you're qualified to even judge my truck?
Yep. Yeah, we were at a show one time, and our friend had just this badass Integra 4-door, was hydraulic down in Arizona, and it's out here now, full interior, everything. And the guy, he's like a rural tool that he's still around this way, and he's judging the car, and a leaf blows in. And they see the leaf blow in, and he like kind of points to it, and they're like, yeah, the leaf just blew in. And he's like, yeah, I got to take points off for that. And we're like, really? Like a leaf just like fell in from a tree, and you're gonna take a point off for that? Like, come on, man. That's when you just kind of go, dude, really? A trophy? I don't need this, you know? Because like you said, some people aren't even qualified to be judges, you know? So
yeah, I mean, I don't know what the criteria ever was, you
right.
know. I remember I think it was up at Valley Run or something, and Tiny, who was you know, a real kind of old timer, I think he'd kind of transitioned kind of from the vans into the mini trucks. Mm-hmm. And I think it was either Valley Run or it was where they had Valley Run. It was the council run or something. But my truck was only a 2-high 2-by, you know, it wasn't a 4-wheel drive. Mm-hmm. So it would always kind of fall into this kind of category to where the pre-runner trucks, those were kind of picking up in popularity. Those guys didn't want me in their class, you know, because my truck was, you know, had everything had been touched.
Yes.
You know, whether it was good or not, it's a different story. But, and the 4-bike guys, they didn't want me in their class either, because for the same reason. So my truck always kind of like was kind of floating back and forth if there was a 2-high 2-by class. And I remember we were at this show, and this guy Tiny comes up, goes, hey, Mike, he's all, you know, the guy with that Datsun 620, and it had like a mail carrier front axle on it, and it looked like he let MacGyver weld it all together with a fucking nickel and a battery.
Right.
And he's all, hey, you know, this guy's causing a big stink. He says it's not fair because he did all the work on his truck, and you paid to get yours done. Lord. And that, you know, he should get the trophy. And I go, well, you know, first thing, Tiny, is this. It's like, you know, it's like I go to work and I do electrical work so that I can afford to pay people to do what they do. So as far as like me not physically doing it, yeah, I didn't physically do it, but I did go earn the money to pay somebody that knows how to weld to do it, So
Yeah.
I
And
go,
we start splitting hairs. Yep.
if you want to fucking give it to him, I don't really care, And this is as I was coming off of like the necessity of winning trophies. It's like, it's not that big a deal to me. Go give it to him. But I just want you to understand that just because he did it himself doesn't mean it's any good. It's like,
Yeah, because there'd have to be a whole class for, you stitched your own interior and you did your own chrome plating, like at what point does it stop? You know what I mean? You built your own truck, so, but, yeah,
if
definitely.
everybody did their own shit, nobody would make any money, and it's one of those things that, like, with my stuff, even the cars I have now, it's like, I'm involved with all of it. I just can't take the credit for it. But, I'm there basically 90% of the time, and I'm doing something and moving the ball forward. But, I could never say I painted my car, even though I sanded on it for a long time, or put the motor in it. I physically put the engine in it, but, Brian's the one that welded the motor mounts into the frame. But, it's something that's got to be on the road with other cars too. And I can't have it coming apart.
Yeah, and you were a part. Yeah, let's be honest. You were a part of the build. It wasn't like you were some multimillionaire and you've never even seen it and you just said, just build it for me. I mean, none of us, most of us haven't done everything on our vehicles anyway. So I get it.
Yeah, some people get like really hung up on that, but it's like I pay people to do what they do, because I want it done right too.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned, like, there's the famous photo. I had shared it in our group, and it's a photo like at a river run, and it looks like Brian might be sleeping. Couple guys are sleeping under it. That photo was the inspiration for our first river run shirt, where we have the guy laying under the truck. And then when we recently did the river run remix, I was like, man, it's only fitting that we put Sky Body, which I always wanted to do, on the shirt, and of course the guy's laying under the truck. But when you think about some of the river runs that you ended up going to, like, did the truck not go to many events when it was black, or was it just, it seemed like it was the tail end of the run of the truck that, that you had with it?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of the tail end of it when it was black, because basically that Truck Useless came out, that John Lallo ended up on it at the end. And that truck came out and it had the gold wing doors and, highly detailed undercarriage. And he had like a display that had like some sort of staircase that went up to it to look inside, and really professionally done interior. And it was a super nice truck. And at that point I was like, I kind of felt, after 5 years, my truck had been getting stale.
Right.
And so me and Brian decided, we can make my truck better. Let's make it better. Let's make it different, and so we kind of went, and I had this guy down in Ramona, Cliff First. I had him redo my whole chassis to where we narrowed the frame to make it 4-wheel steering. We made it all the mounts were finger mounted for the body mounts and all the suspension. And then while the frame was down there, we were suiciding the doors. We diamond the hood. And then I did some electrical work for Roger at Concepts when Brian worked for Concepts. And so they did a roll pan kind of tailgate, smoothed the whole back of it out to where I was going to, get rid of the stock taillights and then put the taillights in the roll pan. If I was even going to put taillights, I don't even remember, because the truck at that point was getting to the point to where I couldn't really even drive it and enjoy it. Just because every time I took it out, it was like I was sweating bullets on a cop pulling me over, because it had a 5% limo tint windshield and headlights out of like a 89 Ford that didn't even shine anywhere near the street.
Right.
And, like I'd mentioned earlier, since it was only a 4,000, pound truck, my frame height was only allowed to be at like 27 inches, and it was sitting more like at 36, and so it was just a fix-it ticket every time it hit the street. And Temecula back then, was kind of picking up speed as far as like a lot more cop presence. In the early days, 3 years before that, there was like one sheriff that would kind of patrol around here half the time. And in between here and like Lake Elsinore, about 20 minutes up the freeway. And so me and my brother started like getting tons of fix-it tickets, and then he ended up getting rid of his 4Runner, and then my truck, we kind of took it apart, and we're going to kind of make it a full-on show track, without the judging, obviously. But I had Doug Starbuck. I did a bunch of electrical work for him, and he painted my frame, and the wheels were all in motion to making the new improved Sky body. And I took everything off and had it down at the chrome shop. Every leaf was going to be plated, and bought, more shocks, and then the hydraulic ram for the rear end, because it was going to be 4-wheel steering. And then we made it right-hand drive as well.
Holy shit. It was going to be 4-wheel steering and right-hand drive. Damn.
Yeah, I'd have probably rolled it. But, it's definitely my biggest failure in life is not seeing it through, because even for years, we got the chassis all back together at one point, but I was like so withdrawn from it that Brian and Sal, they took it up to some truck run up in Corona. I don't know, may have been Valley Run again. It seemed like there was a lot of Valley runs, but that was the last time it was ever photographed, and it was in like some Mini Truckin magazine in 1997.
Yeah,
maybe.
What was ironic is when it was originally featured, it was in issue 6 for winter 90. Brian McCormick shot it, and I was always curious if they just reused the photos. But you're right, it was September 98. It was on the cover of the 10th anniversary.
No, it had like one more appearance at the coverage of the truck run.
Right,
the frame.
Right.
A black and white picture, and it said something like, "If you've been around for a while." It's over at my parents' house with my collection of stuff I don't want to mess up.
Yep.
But I'll snap a photo of it and send it to you or something. But
yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, because like you're saying, that was when the kind of that rebirth of it was kind of in the making.
Yeah, it was. I already had my Buick by then, and I'd already kind of changed gears and was kind of heading into the old cars. But I still had the frame, and it was kind of still partially, assembled. And I was going to put a 302 Ford in it, and I was going to make it 4-wheel drive, for my friend Mike Norman, who gave me the most shit about it and still does, about it being a too-high 2-by. I've been able to stay kind of connected with some of the guys from back in the day through Instagram, and I came across Mike on there, who was kind of like one of my road dogs when we'd go do those RG Canning shows. And still to this day, every time that there's a picture posted of it, if you see US Machine Gun talking shit, that's him.
That's a true friend right there, man. The shit talking doesn't stop for 30 plus. I like it.
Yeah, and I read it, and I was like, it almost has like a serious tone to it, like he's like red-assed about it. But it is what it is. It was a too-high 2-by, and
yep.
I was like really surprised, like the night that I was listening to your podcast, you had Alex Anderson on there, and it even got mentioned for a truck that had a 5-year lifespan 30 years ago, so had relevance, 30 years later.
Yeah, I think the naming of it, the colors, the multiple changes, the feature, the cover, like you said, even the show coverage, like where it popped up, that's what helped just, etch it in our minds. Brian Beard had asked, the beginning of the story, which you've talked about that, but you kind of just said it, I think, a minute ago, like, would you do anything different? And it would maybe just be to see it through, like on the last, journey. But again, you were at a different point of your life at that point.
Yeah, well, when I kind of had it to that point to where it was kind of teetering on the fence of completion or complete scrapping.
Yep.
I was 24 years old, and it was like, well, okay, what happens if I get this thing together? I can cruise like movie theaters and high schools, or I can take this little bit of change I got built up here, and I could buy a house. And my parents were really kind of forcing me to do the right thing and buy a house. And
yep.
So at that point, it was that was probably where it tipped the scales over, and I'd kind of turned my back on it and all the good times we had in it.
Oh yeah. If someone had asked, would you ever, or one of our good buddies, Madhu, he's a good dude. He was like, would you ever recreate it? You know, these guys are doing that, but you kind of told me before we started, like, you know, just like I'm into the Lincolns, you know, you have your niche over with the hot rods. I mean, you got the 55 Buick, and then you've got a Cadillac as well. So that's where your love's at, it sounds like.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, ever since the shirt logo came out and we had made contact, you know, the other day I was on Craigslist, and the next thing you know, I'm searching like Nissan hard bodies.
There you go. Interest was piqued a little bit.
And yeah, and then there was a guy on the East Coast that had contacted me through Instagram or something, and him and his daughter or his son were going to be building a truck or something, and he said it was, you know, Skybody was a big inspiration. He thought that, you know, I should make another one, and then me and Brian have kind of talked about it, but it's like, as much as it's a nice thing to think about while I'm driving down the freeway, it's like I don't think that'll ever happen.
Yeah, I get it.
And I mean, it would be cool, and I think that it would be a lot easier now. You know, now that we're 30 years down the road and have a much better budget to work off of.
Oh yeah.
And having been through the ringer once before, we know where all the piles of dog shit are, not to step in them. You know.
Yeah. Now, so the fate of it, I mean, it's pretty easy for us to piece together. It, you know, it sounds like, you know, some people have chimed in, right? So it sat at your parents a while, and then did people just start going, hey, you know, calling you, hey, man, do you have a such and such for this? I mean, did it get scrapped? Did it get parted out? I mean, kind of, is there an end game to that?
Yeah, the bed I sold or something to the guy that had the Rhino lining business in town here, because he had like a Nissan hardbody that was lowered, and he got the bed. Eric Jackson took the cab, and him and some other guy took it out to Arizona for something. The tires went up to Stoney Martell, who had a big lifted Chevy S10 extra cab.
Yep.
And the frame I sold to some guy that was friends with Sean Dell and Craig Elder. And the last time I ever saw it, I was Sean had a shop down in Escondido, and I was at the chrome shop next door getting my license plate frame off my Buick, picking it up, and I saw Sean's shop there. And I was going to pop in just to say, hey, what's going on? And I stepped in the door, and I could see my chassis underneath a piece of clear visqueen. But okay, this is still like 20 years ago.
Right. But that's still cool though to me that, like, after that time, like, you know, you immediately knew it because, right, it was your truck for so long. So I think that's cool.
Well, I knew Sean was kind of connected to the guy, and and I mean, you know, I mean, you could still see the purple paint job that Doug Starbuck put on it.
Yep.
And so, you know, I knew it was my truck. I mean, I knew from the door, you know, 20 yards away. But at the time, I kind of like looked at it. I kind of shrugged my shoulders. No one was visible in the shop, and I just kind of left.
Yeah.
And you know, there'd be times where I'd walk through my garage and I'd see the poster of it up on the wall, and then I'd look down at like what was left of it, kind of in the single stall in my garage, and I'd just shake my head and just go, God, what did I do? You know, because it was a perfectly good truck. Maybe we could have fixed a few things on it, but it would just be just like kind of touching up and fixing things that we probably didn't have the best knowledge of doing originally.
Sure.
And basically taking apart, you know, what's a very nice truck, you know, that, you know, anybody would have been happy to have it in the state it was in, that I didn't think it was good enough to drive around anymore, you know?
Yeah, no doubt. Just a couple more questions to value your time. Brian Gendro, he chimed in and said, ask him how he always disappeared at night at a truck run and came back the next morning missing his shoes or shirts. And then Eric chimed in and said to add to Brian's question, ask him about his one shoe collection. And with all the shoes he lost, how he would never lose his cheap gas station sunglasses or throwaway cameras he always took.
It was, you know, asking me what happened to those shoes, you'd be better off going to look for the shoes, I think, because we're in a controlled environment at those truck runs where, you know, I always felt very secure that, you know, if I was going to pass out in somebody's camp or somebody, it'd probably be somebody that we knew or whatever. And, you know, there was a fence around the whole place, and, you know, you could kind of cut loose and not really worry about anything happening, you know. And, you know, this is, you know, kind of mid to late 80s, and everyone was very, very friendly, and it was a very kind of open thing, other than those assholes stealing the ice chests and turning off the DJ. You know, it was a pretty safe place to be. And, But yeah, if I had $1 for every time I came back on Sunday morning wondering where my left shoe or right shoe ended up, and looking for the cat that shit in my mouth, and swearing I'm never going to drink again.
Oh yeah, that's good times. Well, like I said, it was really awesome to put. I always wanted. I love the color combo on it. We went back and forth, the white or the black version, and we settled for the black version that went on the River Run remix. And it's just paying homage like we did with the first one to the West Coast River Runs. We would see the coverage. I mean, that Spring Splash '94 cover was so iconic. Chris Andrews' truck was out there, and there were so many different events. So we appreciate you letting us use it, and hopefully it brought back some good memories, man.
Oh no, yeah, it was just from the time I heard you and Alex talking about it, and I mean, I've got the poster in my garage,
yes.
And sometimes you have things that are on the wall that are, but you just don't really look at them.
Yep.
And after I heard you guys talking about it, I mean, I was in shock, that you even mentioned it, and then I kind of came back and I was looking at it, and then I'd been over to my parents' house and dug through the magazine collection and was kind of flipping through some of the stuff from back in the day, and because I have every picture of every Truckin or Mini Truckin that I was like ever in there. I've got a couple to where I've like the giant trophy. I've got one where I'm in on the tricycle in the tricycle race, and it wasn't just like my truck. I mean, I had like a couple rare appearances in those things as well.
That's so cool. Yeah, it was a good era, man. And when you, for those that don't know, I know a couple people have shared it. I don't know where the original photo came from, but the 1991 calendar, I know we shared it, but I had borrowed it from C30 Direct, which is David Perfader.
Yeah, okay, David's the guy I was talking about a second ago.
Okay, got it. I see. Yep, got it. Okay, cool.
Sorry, David. Your name
so he had shared, it was like the 91 calendar, and that's, the one that's, I mean, it's pretty rare. Like, you probably only know of a few people that still have those,
As far as I know, my mom's the only one that has one.
I like that. So the lifted scene, you mentioned Craig Elder's name earlier. We'd love to eventually get him on. He's been on our list a while. Craig, obviously had the success with the, the Tahoe and the vans and stuff like that. And then, as the 90s grew into the 2000s, the trucks got crazier. I like the style that he was building, though, for a while because he had the bigger tires. And Graham Hancock, one of our homies, he said, hey, ask him what he thinks of the lifted truck scene today. I know the biggest difference that I always see is like, when you talked about the tires that you had back in those days, you had a lot of meaty tires and the smaller wheels, which I think is a great combo. Now it's like reversed. It's these crazy lower profile tires, not as much meat, but obviously bigger wheels. Is there anything that you've noticed that just, online and stuff that you just kind of cringe at, or stuff that you like about the lifted scene these days?
No, I don't really cringe at any of it. I mean, a lifted truck always catches my eye on the freeway, and I still see them on Instagram and stuff, and I see like lots of different varying styles. But it's still big is big, and big's always going to catch people's eye. And when I drive to work every morning, there's like a Ford Excursion. It sits at a car lot. It's used for advertisement. But I've driven by this thing for like 8 years, and every morning, including this morning, I still look over to see where they've got it in the lot, and it's head and shoulders above every other truck they've got in the lot. Yep. And so it always catches my eye, and I always look at it, and lifted trucks, it's like Pete said, they never go out of style. You could dig a hole and bury one, and you could bring it back out 100 years from now, and it would still be an eye catcher.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was watching Roadhouse with Pat Swayze right before the new year, and there's a scene in there where a guy's driving like a huge,
Bigfoot?
Like Bigfoot, literally. And I thought to myself,
was Bigfoot.
Yeah, and I remember that era. Obviously that was kind of late '80s. I think it was '89, but seeing those and some of the different movies and stuff. And then, to your point, it was always cool to me as a child. My dad's cousin, Wayne, he had a huge lifted truck. I don't know if he bought it or whatever, like in the 80s. And we were kids and we just thought, we thought it was Bigfoot. I mean, it was that big of a truck, and it was always neat to see him, but we didn't obviously have as many over here on the East Coast. I did want to just ask you, we hinted at the hot rod stuff, right? So, I remember when I was pretty young and I was focused on buying a house and stuff like that. And, a lot of us mini truckers went to full-size trucks. I had a Bourbon for a while, and then, we morphed into, like, Eddie, rest in peace, was in the Cadillacs. I'm in the Lincolns, Buicks, all that kind of stuff. But, where do you spend your time these days? It sounds like are some cool local hot rod events, Grand National Roadster Show, that kind of stuff. What's your favorite aspect about the hot rod scene these days with what you've got over, on that side?
Well, I like the fact that, a lot of us are never going to outgrow our cars, because they're so much older than us. And, there's still, lots of innovative stuff that came from mini trucks that are being incorporated into these customs, and not so much the hot rods. I mean, there's different cliques within the clique within this whole subculture scene. And, I kind of call it that because it's more than just the cars. I mean, it's got a lot of different layers on it as well. But, part of that's, the traditional hot rods to where, things are very specific and guys are building their cars to a specific era using parts that would only been available in that period of time and doing them very authentically. And then you've got like cars like my Buick, which, I've seen a lot of negative stuff. I've seen a lot of positive stuff. Some people don't like the flames, because, it's not traditional. And then I hear all this bags are for grocery shit and stuff. But, my Buick has a large stereo system in it, like my truck did. It's got air ride suspension, like, Brian kind of was on the leading edge of innovating. Mm-hmm. And, my Buick was probably one of the earlier cars that is in, the kind of custom hot rodish kind of genre that even had air ride on it. I know that he bagged his 50 Chevy, and he'd done another car for another guy, Rob Fortier, that worked for Street Rodder, and then Bones Newton's car. But I can't think of too many cars, Cuddy's car maybe, that were before mine being bagged. And, it's, these cars are kind of neat. I mean, there's a lot to look at on them, and they kind of bring people back. I enjoy, like I said, with my truck, is watching people look at my car, and it appeals to a wide range of people, from little kids to, we came out to California in one of these things back in, 1957.
Oh yeah.
When that car was 2 years old.
Yep.
And, if you want to talk to me about something, I mean, the truck was a little bit of a stretch for me because of my memory, but, I can talk about my Buick all day long, and I've had that car for like damn near 25 years. I've had it since 96, so I've put a lot of miles on it, and we've had a lot of fun in it.
Yeah, and I'm always curious, where did you end up buying it? Because, before we started, you kind of mentioned a lot of times you'll hear this phrase, man, they're getting harder to find. I hear that all the time with the Lincolns. If it's a coupe, if it's a convertible, quote, they're getting harder to find. 25 years ago, you end up with this Buick. How did you come about it? I mean, that was before, Facebook Marketplace, obviously Craigslist, MySpace, all that. Is that back in the Auto Trader days or just word of mouth?
No, it's definitely, you're right. It was Auto Trader. And I wasn't looking for a 55 Buick, but I was kind of looking for a shoebox or a early 50s Chevy. I'd always, the Social Distortion album, Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell, Mike and Dennis and John and Chris are all in Mike's Pontiac. And it was a shot through the windshield. And it just looked like the guys going out cruising,
Uh-huh.
And it was a big mid-50s wide custom, I think it was a 55 Pontiac is what he had at Star Chief. And I'd always loved that picture. And then so I wasn't really finding any shoe boxes or Chevys, and then so I started kind of looking more towards Buicks and Oldsmobiles and Pontiacs because of that picture. Because I just thought that that's what it's all about, just piling the guys in the car and then going cruising. And then so I came across my Buick on, in Auto Trader, and then I called the guy up. He lived down in Ocean Beach, and I'm like, hey, can I come down and look at it? And he's all, well, I got this chick coming to look at it and stuff. If she doesn't want it, I'll give you a call back. And I go, okay, well, I'm going to be at my brother's house, who was living in San Diego. So if something should fall through, call me at this number. Because granted, this is all pre-cell phone, And so I was at my brother's house. We're going to go out that night or something. And the guy called up. He's all, hey, that chick came. He's all, fuck her. She ain't got no money. He's all, if you want to come down and look at it, you're next up. And so I went down and I'm all, yeah, I'll take it, looking at it in the dark and stuff. And I bought it, and I'm glad I bought it. It's been a good car. I mean, we've done a ton of work to it. I've done way more work to this than we ever did to my Nissan. But, it's become a very recognizable car, I guess, within the scene. And it's been around for so long. And it's not period correct. It's nothing that they would have had in the 50s. It's definitely a 90s. It's a 90s custom. It is what it is. But, it's usually got a trunk full of beer, and it's usually got a crowd of people standing around it. And I enjoy the conversations that come from it, and talking to the people and drinking beers out of the back of it. And
that's what it's about, man. And if you think about all those years, out of high school with the mini truck, many different versions. Obviously, you've been an electrician. I think you had told me for, since high school, right? So, you got this great trade that you have. And then, you end up with a hot rod or two and some cold beers on a weekend, hanging out with friends and family. I mean, dude, life doesn't get much better than that, man.
No, yeah, I always look forward to those times. It's good to get out, drive the car, get in a controlled environment where you're not going to drive it, and then crack a bunch of beers. And and then it's not like the truck run days where you'd crawl under the shell and get in the bed of it. But now my stuff kind of gravitates closer to like hotels. But that's my area of roughing it now. Not sleeping on a beach with one shoe and some Carl's Jr. sunglasses in my pocket.
You won't lose the sunglasses, I heard, though. But the Pete Finland, right? We brought his name up earlier. Hot Dog Designs. Obviously, he's did a lot of worked on a lot of cool stuff over the years, including stuff that Brian built. I remember seeing his name associated with some of the trucks that Brian built. But I believe, didn't he pinstripe? Was it the Buick, or was the Buick Flames, right?
No, that was Ryan that pinstriped that.
Okay, Ryan did that. Okay.
Yeah, up in Vegas now.
Right
when he moved out here.
That's right. Okay.
Right when he moved out here from Texas, he was trying to get a shop going down in the same complex that Brian was at, and he was kind of going through all this city red tape with getting his booth up and running. And me and Eric had just, painted the flames on the car, and I hit up a few other people. I hit up like Von Franco, and I'm like, hey, Franco, I go, you want to pinstripe my car? He's all, yeah, no, Mike. And then I know Ryan was kind of scraping to get some income, and I go, hey, you want to come up to my house and pinstripe my Buick? He's all, I'm there. And I've got pictures of him doing it, and that I came across not too long ago, and I sent them up to him through Instagram. And
that's cool.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. It's been pretty a small world, but like I've said a number of times tonight, a lot of like where I come from and my resources and the people that have helped me along the way, it's all rooted, in the mini truck world.
Yeah, it is. And one cool thing for the listeners, Ryan, who he's talking about, is Ryan who painted Lomigo, that is now at Count Customs, right? And he, obviously has just a great guy. He's commented back on some things here and there. He painted, I always want to say, I get confused, Chaotic. I'm trying to remember if he painted the Steel Flame, because there's so many different trucks. But Ryan, is obviously a very talented guy, and it's cool Ronnie over at C10 Talk and Truck Talk Media, he'll often use the word lineage, and the lineage that we have though in the mini truck scene, right, going all the way back those years, and cover trucks that he painted, and then you fast forward, he's out in California, and then, oh, by the way, he helps you on your your sled, so to speak. So to me, that's the cool aspect of this whole kind of culture that we're a part of, right? A lot of us can help each other out, at certain points. But
oh yeah, I've had a lot of help along the way, and I appreciate every bit of it. And I've never been in the position to go drop my car off and say, call me when it's done, and I'll show up with my checkbook.
Yep.
And but I have been very fortunate to where I have had a lot of people that know what they're doing kind of help me along and kind of get me through the woods on a lot of this stuff. And like I told you earlier, Brian and Eric have been my two deepest resources. But just kind of as I was kind of remembering back, there was a lot of others along the way that have had their hands in with helping me along with either my my hot rod or my custom, or even back with my mini truck, David Chappelle, me and him built the whole chassis on my Roadster pickup, and then he went and welded it up.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Now he's on like TV.
I know. Every time you say it too, I always think Chappelle Show. And when you said it to me earlier tonight, I was like, oh yeah, I know him. I was like, wait. The last thing before we wrap it up, I thought this was really cool. When we talked earlier, you had mentioned the Dogtown and Z-Boys. I had to look it up. I remember it was about 20 years ago. It was 2001. That documentary came out. But are the rumors true? Was your car somehow in that?
Yeah, my car was in it at the part where they're talking about how Craig Stenick was inspired to paint surfboards a little differently. Back then in the 70s, they were painting like three colored stripes down the center of the board, and it was really kind of bland. But the part that he's mentioned in that my car kind of is in is that they're talking about how he's inspired by graffiti, and they'd flash graffiti and lowriders, and they show like an Impala and then hot rods, and then my Buick, a still photo of my Buick kind of zooms through the screen. And I was thinking like, wow, they're doing a movie that's kind of based in the late 70s, and here we have my Buick, and this is before it was painted. This is when it was flames on primer, and so it was 98, 99, so it was a whole 20 years later. And to have it be part of that, and it was in that movie Gone in 60 Seconds, when they steal the Merc out in front of the Frolic Room on Hollywood there, and they crack off the flamethrowers. You look across the street and my Buick's sitting in front of the Frolic Room.
That's sick, dude.
And it was in a Brian Setzer video, and then Ben Wood got me on 2 TV shows, Sticker Shock and that one they do in Temecula here, Car Masters.
That's right, you Sticker Shock and then Car Masters. I had heard about those. The Sticker Shock one was cool. And which car did you have on there?
The Buick.
Oh, the Buick, okay. And I think now I remember that episode, And now,
it was the last episode 13.
Yes, and what was ironic is since I've looked at your Instagram photos, I'm like, wait, I know him from somewhere, and that's probably where I saw you.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good program, too. I liked that show just because it wasn't about anything in particular. They had a kid with a bicycle. They had a guy with a motorhome. They had some guy that had, like, a microbus, a Volkswagen. It was just like, bring whatever car you got and tell us the story of it, and we'll tell a little bit of the background of you and your car, and then we'll have some guy that doesn't know how to appraise anything come out and tell you it's not worth nothing, or they'll overvalue it. And that was a good show.
Yeah, it definitely was. And Fester was on there with quote Last Look, which was the Cal Concept Car Syndicate, which he about went crazy, and it kind of sent shockwaves to the mini truck community because obviously, like you said earlier, talking about purists with a car, or is it really a hot rod, this, that, the other. Of course, you got people splitting hairs about, well, it can't be worth that, and this and that. So I think it did lead. I forget if the TV show led to it, but there was a cover that went, back in those days. I think, Sean Carlson, rest in peace, he was even involved in it. But there was the cover that went over the rear, the axle section of the truck, and it was all airbrushed. And somehow I think he ended up acquiring that back. And I don't know if that was because someone saw the TV show, but it blew off. I think, I'm going from memory, I think it blew off the truck years ago when it was on the East Coast and someone found it and they had it. So to me, like, even that aspect was cool. Like, imagine having a missing piece and somebody goes, oh, I've got that in my garage, you know? I mean, crazy stuff like that happened. It was something like that. I may not have all the details right, you know? But, dude, Mike, to me, it's been a true honor just to sit down with you. I know, there's a lot of heritage that you have. You got a lot of, stories and things like that, and I appreciate you sharing them with us and the listeners. Although it was 30 plus years ago, again, as I said earlier, it's really etched in our minds. I think the name was fantastic, Skybody, but obviously the truck, other than Sean Dell's, I don't know anybody's that's went through so much transformation. And obviously Sean's is, he's kind of reinforced that he's eventually going to, bring it back around. But I think truly that 5 to 6 year run that you had, man, may not have been a bigger, crazier run for any truck. And, we tip our cap to you, man.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on. And, I really do appreciate the fact that the truck's still relevant after all these years, and that you felt like, talking to me would be interesting enough for your listeners. And it's been fun. The past couple, days I've been driving to work and home with complete silence, just trying to remember the chronology of what we did back then.
Dude,
and there's, there was like 3 truck clubs that we didn't even get to mentioning that I was in that short period of time. And just a lot of, good people, a lot of fun. And, it was good, kind of wholesome fun, and I look back at, those cruises, those cruise nights and things, they weren't organized. It was just like every Friday, and there would just be a whole slew of trucks, cars, all kinds of stuff, just people getting out. And it's really, you're hard pressed to go find that anymore.
Yeah. And we've talked to guys that have said, hey, these, like when we had Rob Rodell on, and he said, hey, some of these guys I met at this, at this one run when I went from Texas to Arizona was like, we became lifelong friends, and that's the cool thing about the car stuff. And, I know Courtney, rest in peace, he was from that Southern California area, and we've heard a lot of stories about people met him, and obviously he was, good friends with Brian, and again, rest in peace, Courtney, one of the true OGs. But that's the cool thing that, we do the podcast, and here's the ironic thing. I think it was basically a year ago we kicked off 2021 with Alex. And I always wanted to have Alex, who on, you mentioned him earlier. But it's like now fast forward a year, and it's the first episode of 2022, and we were able to have you on. So like I said, it was an honor, and we mean that with all respect, and we love the fact that you're still doing the hot rod stuff, and you're just still having fun, because that's what it all comes down to. But have fun this weekend. I know Brian's going to be in town, so give him a fist bump, and we'll be looking forward to linking up with him. And we'll any photos you have, we have a bunch of them. We'll share some, but feel free to send them our way, Mike.
No, yeah, I got your number now, so I can text you stuff, and it's just overloading stuff on Instagram. It's
oh yeah, yeah. And thanks for sharing that little video that you did the other day, and we'll reshare that so people can see it. And like I said, we really appreciate the heritage, the stories, all that stuff, because I mean, a lot of us, although we are on to different kind of, different trucks, we're in the mini truck scene still, but we like Lincolns and all that other stuff. We still got, our heart here in the mini truck scene. So again, thank you so much. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention?
No, I just, wanted to, again, thank you for having me on. And it was good rolling down memory lane.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Flamed_Buick 55, the number 55. You can follow Mike Collins and see some of the photos. We'll be sharing some of them. And we certainly appreciate, again, you taking the time. And stay safe out there in California, dude.
Yeah, you too. And if you're ever out this way, hit me up.
Oh, I will, Mike. Thank you so much, brother. We out you.
Okay, cool.